The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSRTV, your home for sim racing.
Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to LSRTV's live coverage of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series presented by English Auto L.L.C. We hope everyone had a fun and safe Memorial Day weekend, and now we are back and live once again from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Live from the broadcast booth tonight is myself, Brian Macklin, and joining me tonight is Gary Weaver with Andrew Cardinale joining us just a bit later in the show. And then, of course, we have the lovely and talented Cisco Scaramouza down in the production trailer, pressing our buttons and the ones that bring the beautiful picture to all you viewers each and every night here on LSR TV. We have 150 laps of action here tonight from the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and when it's all said and done, Gary Weaver, we will crown our first ever segment champion here in RSR. And what a battle we have for that championship coming up here tonight. They have 4 drivers, Gary, battling for this championship, with Brandon Bowie leading the way with just a 3-point advantage over Seth DeMerchant. And then you've got Michael Guerrilla 12 points back and Spencer Preet 20 points back.
Yeah, Brian, that's going to be a very heavily close battle here tonight. So we're going to be keeping an eye on those 4 drivers especially. And I believe, as obvious, that the highest finisher, essentially in this case, is going to be taking away that segment championship. But it's going to take a long time, though. It's going to be a long 150 laps, and these 4 drivers would have to play it as safe as possible if they want to make it to the end.
And not only will they come away with the segment championship, but there will be a little bit of prize money going to the champion after tonight is said and done. The champion will win $150. So more than just bragging rights for these guys here tonight. Typically when you run a sim race like this, you're just going out there and you're trying to run for bragging rights. But tonight these guys have the opportunity to race for some money as well. And for those 4 drivers, that's going to bring the intensity through the roof. And we're kind of seeing that here as qualifying is about halfway over right now. Brandon Bowie, who is our points leader coming into tonight, he's on the pole currently. As long as he can hold on and nobody can dethrone him, he's got that provisional pole position right now. And you look through the field right now, and I don't really see Seth DeMerchant or Michael Guerrilla or really that close. Seth DeMerchant is the closest, back in that 12th position right now. So these guys are going to have their work cut out for them if they're going to get up there and challenge Bowie for this championship here tonight.
And these guys will have to work towards it. And Michael Guerrilla just actually got moved down to now was 19th place. And Spencer Preet has not yet put in a qualifying lap time, and I don't think he will have any time, or at least I don't think he will choose to either in this case. So for Spencer Preet, he's definitely going to have to work his way up, but so will, like you mentioned, Guerrilla and DeMerchant.
It's going to be an uphill battle for each of those drivers, and it definitely puts Brandon Bowie at an advantage coming into tonight. And I want to talk about some of the action that we saw in the All-Star race a couple of weeks ago, Gary. I know you weren't here for it, but we had an absolutely incredible battle at the end between Daniel Eberhardt and Carl Shedd, and what led to an accident coming off turn 4. They made contact. Carl Shedd got turned hard into the outside wall, and somehow Daniel Eberhardt kept his car pointed in the right direction and was able to come home with the win. Of course, in an All-Star race, the action is always going to be a lot higher than you see in a points race, but you have to believe these guys know how racy this track is going to be, and have to believe that they're going to want to try to get after it the same way they did a couple of weeks ago.
A couple of weeks ago it was just for fun, but now it's time to take off the fun cap and put on the, in this case, the serious racing cap, because it's definitely going to be it's going to be a challenge for these guys in that finish. Maybe Daniel Eberhardt could be walking away with the win once again. He is in 9th place, however, just only about roughly 2/10 off of Brandon Bowie's lap time. So essentially, that's pretty much your entire top 10 as well, just 2 points off Bowie's lap time. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see what everybody does here, especially these top 4 in the points. But you just have to make it to the end.
And for the drivers that aren't racing for that segment championship, it's just a normal night for them. They just want to come out here. They need to get a solid finish, maybe try to go for the win if they're in a position to do so. They don't really have to worry about it. They are going to be mindful of those 4 drivers racing for that segment championship here tonight, but they have their own race to run. For some of these guys, they've kind of got to start thinking about getting themselves in a position to make the playoffs later in the season. We're getting to that point of the season where you've really got to start looking at the points. You know, wins don't get you into the playoffs like they did last year. You have to finish top 16 in points, and there's several drivers right now that are on the outside looking in. One of those being David Comstock. He missed a couple of races. He's back in 22nd in points right now. He's got his work cut out for him if he wants to do that. So for a driver like that, you're not worried about that championship battle. You're worried about trying to put yourself in a position to try to gain some points and try to get closer to that top 16 so that you have that opportunity. You still have the whole summer stretch before that's going to happen, but you've definitely got to start paying attention to that now. And it looks like the qualifying session has finally come to an end, and Brandon Bowie, who is our points leader here tonight, or coming into tonight rather, is going to be your provisional pole starter. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at our starting lineup for tonight's race. And as I just mentioned, Brandon Bowie is on the pole for this race here tonight. Starting to his outside is Andrew Freenarge. He was very fast last week in that All-Star event, led the majority of the laps and had some issues at the end that kept him from being in a position to win. He will start from second. Kyle Kamer will start from that third position. Then we have Tommy Ryan starting fourth, and rounding out the top 5, Daniel Falkingham will start in the 5th position.
Right, 6th will be David Comstock. Dylan Jones starts on his, more like in the row behind him on the inside, 7th place to Dylan's outside. It's going to be Austin Coop in the number 6, starting in 8th. Starting 9th is going to be Daniel Eberhardt, and running out the top 10 is the number 12 of Ross Cato.
Michael Cozy Jr. will start from the 11th position, and then another one of those segment champion contenders, Seth DeMerchant. He will start 12th here tonight. He came into this race with just a 3-point deficit back to Brandon Bowie, so he's very close to having a chance to win that championship. He's going to have his work cut out for him. Chris Hurlow starts from the 13th position. Then we have Sean Casto starting 14th, and Shane Ewing will start 15th here tonight.
16th is Andrew Jones. 17th goes to Galen Goodman. 18th goes to Nick Silver. 19th, Marco Guerrilla. And running out the top 20 is Braden Whittaker.
And Guerrilla, of course, is another one of those championship contenders coming into tonight. 21st goes to Drew Adamson. And then we have 22nd starting with Dwight Beverly. Scott Walter will start 23rd, and he was the last driver to take a time here tonight. The rest of these drivers all took a provisional and will start from the back of the pack. And as Gary mentioned a few minutes ago, Spencer Preet did not put in a lap. He's going to be the first driver on provisional. He'll start 24th. And Lionel Callisto will start 25th here tonight.
And I believe Eric Stanford, I believe he also mentioned, is also going to be rounding out the field. And a little bit of a note, actually, if I can find that driver. Brian, actually go ahead. And it looks like somebody's actually having some problems getting off on the grid right now.
And as everything gets rolling here, we have 150 laps of action on tap for everybody, and I can't wait to see what happens. Again, Brandon Bowie is leading the points in this segment championship here tonight. He has the opportunity to win $150, assuming he can come away with a big victory here tonight. He doesn't have to win the race. He just has to outrun the 3 guys that are chasing him for this championship. And for everybody else, they want to try to go get that victory and see if they can get the job done. Andrew Freenarge was perhaps the fastest car in the All-Star race a couple of weeks ago, and he backed that up with a solid starting position here tonight, starting second. It's going to be very interesting to see what he's able to do here as we get ready to go. 150 laps once again on tap for everybody. We hope you enjoy the show. Pace car's about to dive to pit road for the first time here tonight. Brandon Bowie is the control car. We're waiting for the green flag, and we are down and away here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And a great start for Andrew Freenarge on the outside. He's going to stay door to door with Bowie as they head to 1 for the first time.
We got the advantage through turn number 2, and that's going to single file up for the first 4 positions right now. And looks like side by side for what is actually now going to be position number 3. Kyle Kamer on the outside, and then Daniel Fulham on the inside. Move for first place, rather, as Andrew Freenarge already looks to the inside for the lead. He gets across the start-finish line.
And Andrew Freenarge will actually lead the first lap of the race. He started from that second position, and already he has taken control. Brandon Bowie, however, is not going to put up a fight for somebody like that because he knows the bigger picture is trying to beat Seth DeMerchant, Guerrilla, and Spencer Preet here tonight. So he's just going to race those guys if he has to. While all that's going on, though, great battle for third is going on as the one of Daniel Falkingham's on the bottom. He almost made contact with Kyle Kamer coming off of turn 4. Somehow he kept it off, but Kamer is going to move up into that third position, and he will clear Daniel Falkingham for third as they head through 1 and 2.
That was a great move by Falkingham to get up to that, or by Kamer rather, get up to that third place position. Outside now, battle for position number, looks to be 6 right now. The number 99 of Tommy Ryan is going to be on the top side, trying to get around the 77 Michael Cozy Jr. and the 11 of Dylan Jones. Everybody around this position has the same double-digit number, so right now, side by side, Dylan Jones is going to be Tommy Ryan. He gets by ever so slightly on the front straightaway, but can't make it happen.
Great battle going on right here. Dylan Jones on the bottom, Tommy Ryan on the outside line, and you've got that number 77 machine of Michael Cozy Jr. right behind them as well, trying to find somewhere to go. He had a great run coming off of turn 2, but had nowhere to go with it because these two are side by side right in front of him, and he continues to fight with that issue right now as Tommy Ryan is just not willing to give up that battle with Dylan Jones for that position right now. And these guys remain side by side, and while that's going on, the side by side battle for third and fourth has heated back up as Kyle Kamer and Daniel Falkingham are at it once again. This time Falkingham's on the outside line, and here comes Daniel Eberhardt, the all-star winner. He's on the back bumper of Falkingham. He's trying to find a way through, and he's outside of the number 8 machine right now as they work off turn 4.
On the outside is going to be that number 90, almost saying the outside wall coming up turn number 4. That was a close call. He gets 4th place position that time around across the start-finish line. Now he's going to start trying to work at least to what was 3rd place, but that number 8 of Kamer is not giving up a fight right now, or not giving up that position without a fight rather, but he's going to drop back. Coming out of turn number 2, he's going to fall into the clutches of the number 11 of Dylan Jones for now. It looks like Jones is not going to make an advantage, and it looks like it is now single file for the most part.
Single file through the top 10. Not really a whole lot of side-by-side racing going on right now, and this is a longer race than the All-Star race. These guys, of course, had a very short race with some segments going on a couple of weeks ago in the All-Star race. They have 150 laps to sort this thing out, so a little bit more patience can be used for these drivers. They don't have to be up on the wheel every lap like we saw a couple of weeks ago, but they definitely want to try to make things happen, and we're seeing some things happen right now between Seth DeMerchant and David Comstock. That's a battle at the back half of the top 10, actually right at the outside of the top 10. Comstock and Seth DeMerchant are side by side, and it looks like DeMerchant got a great run coming off turn 4. That's going to allow him to battle hard. And one thing we've seen, Gary, especially here at Charlotte, is after a couple of laps, that outside line really begins to take off, and that's what we're starting to see as you see Seth DeMerchant's really carrying that momentum out there.
Yeah, the outside line is going to get worn in heavily, and looks like Daniel Eberhardt just made a move for 3rd place and turn number 3, so he's now to 3rd, and they're still side by side. Kamer on the outside and number 8, Jones on the inside in the 11. These two will not stop battling, almost making contact down the quad oval front straightaway as they head into turns 1 and 2. That number 8 of Kamer is doing an amazing job hanging on to the outside lane to get that advantage, or at least the momentum, to keep his car alongside Dylan Jones.
And he's doing a great job working that outside line. He actually pinches Dylan Jones down in the middle of 3 and 4 right there, tries to force him to not be able to get the good run off the corner, but it looked like he got tight coming off, and that's going to allow Dylan Jones to take that position, and he will take sole control of that 5th position right now. And now the battle is on right behind them as you see Tommy Ryan trying to find somewhere to go to see if he can't get to the back bumper of the Kyle Kamer to make a move for that position. And he's just not quite close enough to do it right now, but up against the wall down here in 1 and 2. This time he runs low in 3 and 4, but these guys are definitely searching for grip here after about 10 laps. You can see these cars are kind of skating around. I was watching this 57 of Seth DeMerchant just a couple of laps ago, and he was getting very sideways coming off the corner, so you have to believe the longer this run gets, the looser these cars are going to get, and that could wreak havoc for these drivers as this thing goes on.
Yeah, especially with the more the tires get worn on, and I'm seeing a huge scramble of cars in the back half of the field, essentially side by side for some drivers, some not so much, and that starts essentially with Andrew Jones leading that little bit of a pack there, but everybody else in the front portion, relatively the top 10, is doing A-OK right now, so essentially from 18th on back, Everyone is all over the back bumper. It's going to be Michael Guerrilla. He gets into the back bumper of Andrew Jones. Jones was sideways entering turn one. He sailed.
What an incredible save by Andrew Jones right there. Had some help, as you mentioned, from Michael Guerrilla going off into turn one. Somehow he kept that car pointed in the right direction, and we stay green here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. But Andrew Jones is going to lose a significant amount of track position when that's all said and done. He was running 18th at the time, and when they go across the line right here, he's going to fall all the way back to 22nd, and I believe he's actually going to fall to 23rd as Braden Whitaker is going to go by him, and now he's in the wall. Andrew Jones is up against the wall in 1 and 2. Once again, keeps it pointed in the right direction, but he's definitely having some issues after that contact with Michael Guerrilla.
That's the commentator's curse, I swear. It's quite unfortunate, but it's great that he can still keep that thing moving forward and still going. Although he is going to drop back, I'd say accept that and just get your mind cleared and hopefully try to... Oh, well, off track was actually right behind him. Clarence Bonner off track. He got loose out of turn number 4, I believe. Yeah, got loose and snapped sideways, cut through the infield a little bit, did a little bit of some lawn mowing there, but still kept that forward. So Andrew Jones and Clarence Bonner, these two are 30th and 31st respectively. These two are still hanging on, though.
And the only time you want to be going through the grass is if you're recreating the pass in the grass that we saw years ago with Dale Earnhardt. But unfortunately, that's not what we just saw right there with the 81 machine, and he's lost a significant amount of time. He's back in the 31st position, as you just mentioned. And while we're talking about that, just want to give an update to a couple of our championship contenders, especially Spencer Preet, who started back in the 24th position. He's currently worked his way up to the 16th position, so he's heading in the right direction, but he still has a long ways to go. If you look further up in the field, Seth DeMerchant, he started back in 12th. He's actually up to 10th, and we have a 3-wide battle going on right around Spencer Preet right now as he just went between Austin Coop and the 94 of Galen Goodman. What an incredible move that was, but it could have been disastrous had that went wrong, but somehow he managed to keep it going, and now they're actually still going after it as he lost a ton of time, and Austin Coop is able to get back by, and they're 3 wide once again. Now you got Sean Casto on the bottom, Galen Goodman in the middle, and Spencer Preet rather on the outside.
Around in the infield on the front straightaway. Not sure what happened as of yet. We'll get to that. Caution is out.
And a lot of action going on all around the track. That brings out our first caution of the evening, and I believe that's going to be for the 99 of Tommy Ryan. Got sideways coming off of turn 4. The number 77 had nowhere to go, ran right into the back of him. And unfortunately, we're under caution for the first time here tonight on lap 16 here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Doesn't look like there's a lot of damage to the 99 machine. I think you have to be more concerned about the 77 of Michael Cozy Jr. because he has some very heavy front-end damage.
Cozy also got, I believe, some type of a piece of that, but what actually happened through that was Tommy Ryan made a little bit of contact with the driver that was beside him. I believe that was the number 8. It was Kyle Kammerer. He slid. Tommy Ryan slid up in the camera, and Kammerer maybe went down just a little bit, but that's just a racing deal. And I now see that Cozy does have a lot of damage. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Absolutely, and now as everybody gets bunched up here for the first time after that caution has come out, I expect we will see everybody come to pit road for 4 tires and fuel. I don't believe after 18 laps on these tires, Gary, that you'll see anybody elect to go for 2 tires, but we'll have to wait and see. Andrew Freenarge leads them down. He's got Brandon Bowie, Eberhardt, and Dylan Jones in tow right behind him.
And it looks like everybody, all 30, no, never mind, I was just about to say everybody was going to be coming in, but Eric Stanford actually elects to stay out. Not sure. Well, he has 8 laps down. I believe he did miss the grid, and he did actually have some issues on the grid, actually. So 8 laps down, unfortunately. But on the bright side, though, he is back out, so hopefully he can get those 8 laps back up.
Wait and see what happens down here on pit road as everybody's down and away right now, and it looks like Freenarge will be the first one off of pit road. Then we have Daniel Falkingham coming out in second. Eberhardt is third, and then a bit of a drag race between Brandon Bowie and Kyle Kammerer there to come out 4th and 5th. I believe Bowie's going to win that race off of pit road between those 2 drivers, but he did lose a little bit of track position. He was running in the 2nd position, and now he's fallen back to 4th, so a bit of a slow stop there is going to affect him and keep him out of it. And at this time, I'd like to take the opportunity to bring in our fellow colleague. He ran a little bit late here tonight, but Andrew Cardinale, you're finally here with us, and you've been here for a couple of minutes. You got to see a little bit of the action, and What have you seen so far since you've been here that makes you a little bit excited to be here tonight?
Well, of course, Charlotte is always a big deal, and when it's the longest race of the season, that always adds to it. And these guys are doing a great job so far of just getting used to things. I thought it was a pretty good run that I got to see a bit of there until that caution with Tommy Ryan. And really unfortunate to see Tommy Ryan get all that damage, but like you guys were saying, I think he'll be all right. Of course, some of the rear downforce we mess with, just by virtue of that damage. But I think Cosi Jr. is the one to worry about, so we'll keep an eye, of course, on the 77. But all in all, just a really cool race so far. Farinair's just doing a great job, pulling away. I'm probably saying his name completely wrong, but just a lot of fun so far watching this thing play out.
And indeed, it is actually Andrew Freenars, but we've all made that mistake from time and again. It's a very difficult name to pronounce. But yeah, he had the fastest car in the All-Star race a couple of weeks ago. He led the majority of that race and had an incident towards the end of the race that took him out of contention for the win. Still got a good finish. I believe he finished 4th in the All-Star race, but not what he was looking for. And I talked to him a little bit earlier before this race, and he said he wants to get retribution from that race. He wants to come out here, lead the most laps, win this race, and prove that he should have won the All-Star race. And we should be talking about him going for the sweep between the All-Star race and the big race here tonight. So definitely looking to see what he can do here tonight. And Gary, we still have the lights on the pace car. I believe we'll get the one to go this time by. I expect we're going to see some pretty good racing on the restart. Once these guys get bunched up, it seems like you can do a little bit of side-by-side racing for a couple of laps before the handling starts to go away on these cars.
And that handling has something definitely to do with the tires, essentially. You use those tires up, next thing you know, it's either going to be the right rear or the right front, and while you wear one of those out too much or both of those, you will be having a lot of problems. So, like you mentioned, lights are out on the pace car this time around, so Andrew Freenar's in first. Brendan Bowie, throughout all of this, only fell back 3 positions, essentially, so he is in 4th place on the outside, so not really too bad, but Freenar's has pretty much been in control ever since the start of this race.
And as we get ready to go back green here on lap 21, the lights are indeed off on the pace car, and we are about halfway down the back straightaway from getting ready to go back green. And once again, Andrew Freenars is your race leader. Daniel Falkingham will start to his outside in the 2nd position. Then we have Daniel Eberhardt, Brandon Bowie, and Kyle Kamer in 5th, followed by David Comstock, Seth DeMerchant. Then it looks like we have Chris Hurley, Ross Cato, and Galen Goodman, your top 10. But the pace car is about to duck back to the safety of pit road. Once again here, we still have about 130 laps of racing left here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Pace car is in, waiting for the green flag. Freenars gets on the loud pedal early, and he is gone by about 3 car lengths as they cross the stripe for the first time. Daniel Eberhardt got a decent restart. He's going to try to move into that 2nd position. He's on the inside trying to take that position away from Falkingham as they head through 1 and 2.
Eberhardt with a big pull down into turn 3, just ahead of Falkingham. And Falkingham, I know just from past experiences, guys, he's a 1.5 mile guy, so I think he's going to be one to watch for. Of course, I missed the start of this thing, but I've seen just a little bit, and now Brandon Bowie trying to work on that one car of Falkingham. We'll see what he can do with him. Low from the back, just outside the top 5. Seth DeMerchant, always one to watch. He's now into 6th.
Yeah, he's up to, sorry about that, 6th now, so great job by Seth DeMerchant to make up whatever positions I can to the outside for 10th place. It seems it's going to be Chris Hurlow making the move on Ross Cato out of turn number 4.
And what a great battle we got going on right there, as well as these guys are just trying to get settled in right now. You can see Galen Goodman is battling hard on the outside line, trying to find a way to get around Ross Cato, and right in front of him he's got Chris Hurlow on the outside line. As we got a wreck on the backstretch, it looks like Kyle Kamer is around somehow. It doesn't look like the caution has come out. Now the caution is out. Big wreck on the backstretch, and it looks like multiple cars got collected. I see at least 8 or 9 cars that are turned around on the backstretch. I see Gabe Wood. Dwayne Vincent was caught up in it. Looks like a handful of other drivers as well. A big wreck here that, oh my goodness, Gabe Wood had nowhere to go. He ran right into the side of Kyle Kamer.
Yeah, it's the big one down the back straightaway here, Brian, and it all started, like you said, with Kyle Kamer. He got hit by a few guys. Gabe Wood was the first, I believe, and just absolute chaos out of turn number 2 here in Charlotte. And really just, I mean, that's the worst possible thing that can happen at a place like this. Downforce means everything. When you start losing body parts, it doesn't matter what the motor's like. everything is going to go wrong for you the rest of the race. And in a lot of these cases, like Gabe Wood, who almost went up on his lid, the motor is pretty much done. So a lot of these guys, their nights just got ended.
Indeed it did, and that was just one of those things that looked like Kyle Kamer just got sideways coming off the corner, and just it was one of those domino effects. There was just nowhere for anybody to go, and it's just one of those things. You're coming off the corner at almost 180 miles an hour. It's hard to get these cars slowed down, and when everybody's still bunched up like that, just fresh on a restart, it's just so hard to get things calmed down, and unfortunately we saw quite a few cars got collected in that. It looked like all of our championship contenders made it through fairly safely. I don't believe anybody had any significant damage as far as that was concerned. So good for those drivers that are still contending for that championship. That does give a little bit of track position to a couple of these drivers, specifically Spencer Preet, because he started back in the 24th position, Gary, and he's up to 8th, so he's definitely going in the right direction. He's right behind Bowie on the racetrack. Actually, Bowie just came off of pit road. He was on pit road for some pit stops, so he's actually going to be ahead of Bowie when it's all said and done.
Yeah, Spencer Preet actually took the smart move and not qualifying, since he's currently in 6th place. And I'm looking at the wreck once again. I saw Randy Yoakum was involved along with Braden Whittaker. So essentially 4, 5, 8 cars involved in this wreck, and some of them didn't even have any direct input to it, as that some of them were just spinning around, so you had to lock up their tires to avoid it. So it's quite unfortunate that most of these drivers were involved in that, but hopefully some drivers can recover from this. And like you mentioned, some drivers in the point standings, they seem to have made it through that. And Michael Guerrilla is one of them. He's up to 9th place right now. He was 3rd in points coming into this race.
Yeah, and you guys mentioned, some of these guys getting just completely done on that caution. And I think what Gary's about to mention was the black flag for Andrew Jones. That kind of caught me off guard. Andrew Jones with the black flag, drove too many pit stalls on exit. But what I was going to say here is, this place, it's a 1.5 mile racetrack, very fast. You normally think of these racetracks like Charlotte as being wide. Well, that's not really the case at Charlotte. It's kind of weird. It feels wide at first when you're out there on your own. But as soon as you put like 30 cars, for example, on this racetrack, room just runs out, and especially when you have a wreck down the back straightaway, there's almost nowhere to go. At least if it's down the front quad oval, you can at least ditch into the grass or the pit lane or something, guys. But when it's down the back straightaway, there is very little room, and it runs out quick.
Not only that, when you're racing side by side with somebody, the corners really narrow up. Coming off the corner, the way that you exit these corners, you can't stay side by side very easily. It takes a lot of work, and that's why a lot of times you see the guy on the outside line always has the advantage, because he can keep the momentum up, where the guy on the bottom, he kind of gets pinched down, and he has to put more wheel into the car to keep it off the guy on the outside line, and usually it results in him not being able to hold on to that momentum and allows that guy on the outside to get that position away from him. So it's just one of those things. This is a very racy track. It's a lot of fun, but it is also very difficult, and it's one of the reasons why so many drivers enjoy coming here, because of the challenge that it presents. But it looks like the lights are off on the pace car, so we're going to get back to that here in just a moment. And to restack them, since we did have a few guys come to pit road during this caution, Andrew Freenarge is still your race leader. Then we have Daniel Falkingham in 2nd, and now David Comstock is up to the 3rd position. Sean Casto is 4th. Then we have Chris Hurlow in 5th, and Spencer Preet is back in the 6th position, followed by Drew Adamson, Ross Cato, Michael Gray, and Daniel Eberhardt is your top 10. And if you're keeping an eye on that championship battle, Brandon Bowie is currently in the 11th position. So he came into this thing as the points leader. He's going to have to be mindful of that now that he's back in some track position, because he can't afford to give up too much to these guys. Of course, his closest competitor here tonight is Seth DeMerchant, who is still behind him on the racetrack. Seth's currently back in the 13th position, so that's the guy he's got to keep the biggest eye on. He's going to have to try to stay ahead of him. Just 3 points separates those two drivers coming into tonight. But the pace car is about to go in once again here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Freenarge is the control car, and we're waiting to see him get down and away, and he is gone. Green flag back in the air here at Charlotte, and he got a great restart. He's out by 4 or 5 car lengths as they cross the start-finish line.
Andrew Freenarge getting great starts and restarts ever since the start of this race, so now side by side for 2nd. And of course, as I say that, looks like Daniel Falkingham in the 1 will actually not get the advantage on the high side. Here comes Comstock back up on the inside. Right behind them is Sean Casto, just watching this battle unfold in front of them. And now the 1 of Falkingham clears Comstock for 2nd.
And Comstock falls back to third, just ahead of Sean Casto. And this is an interesting battle here, considering you've got the damage on the right side of Spencer Preet. Normally, you get into the wall here, it's going to hurt your car a little bit, but no, 37 Spencer Preet, he's saying no to that. He's still in it. Right behind them is Chris Hurlow. He's kind of on his own in a little bit of a pocket. He's 6th place, trying to get a run on the 37 of Preet.
Great battle going on right there, and you can see Spencer Preet, he is doing everything he can. Of course, he comes into this championship battle with the biggest disadvantage out of all of them. He came in 20 points behind Brandon Bowie, so he's going to have to throw a Hail Mary at this thing if he wants to have a chance to win the championship. He's got the opportunity, but he's going to need help with some issues for Bowie and the Merchant, along with Guerrilla as well. So right now he's got some issues of his own as he's side by side with Chris Hurlow, and he's got Dan Eberhardt trying to make that move to the inside as well, trying to take that position away. And we talked about how the outside line can be the place to be, but on fresh tires you can really make the inside line work, and that's why we're seeing these guys go after it. There's almost a little bit of contact between Spencer Preet and Chris Hurlow, that right there coming off 4. Somehow they keep it off each other, and they remain side by side down in 1.
Yeah, Spencer Preet almost made contact with the outside wall coming out 4 in the process. So now there his 87 is going to be split 3 wide. He will not. Looks like it off of turn number 2, but now this is the time where you have to wonder who is going to go where. In this case, Sean Casto is just ever so slightly slower, at least at the moment. Hello, big time loose with Chris Hurlow off of turn number 4. He'll save it. But right now, this is going to be pretty close. And into the wall just ever so slightly. We see that the 37 of Preet or Eberhardt, or both of them, these two will not stop fighting each other for this one position. Nope, never mind. There goes the 87 in front to block.
Eberhardt down on the bottom of the 90 car, looking for a lane down on the bottom side into 3 and 4. He's going to get it, but up ahead, that's the 67 of Casto, who slows down a little bit mid-corner, kind of checks that 87 up. They keep going. Hurlow trying to get clear now of Eberhardt as Preet falls back, and Preet keeps flirting with that wall on turn 1 entry like Gary was calling out. Eberhardt actually got into the back of Preet the previous time around into 1, guys, and these guys are just on top of each other, and that goes into what Brian was mentioning with these new tires. On a short run, these cars feel great. They feel like Superman, almost like Indy cars at Indy, but as soon as you wear them out, you're going to be on ice the rest of the run.
Absolutely, and that's when you start moving up the racetrack, because you can put less wheel into it. You can really kind of control the car a lot better, and you can get that run off the corner to keep your momentum up. And Daniel Eberhardt's already doing that. He's up on the outside line. I thought he was going to try to force it 3 wide to the outside of Sean Casto right there, but he thought better of it. He's side by side with Chris Hurlow trying to take that 5th position away, and it looks like he's going to have the run right here on the outside line to try to do so. He backs the corner up, gets a great run coming off the corner. You're going to see that momentum carry him. I believe he's going to be able to clear Chris Hurlow. He gets a great run, and indeed he will get clear to take that 5th position away. And now he can set his sights on Sean Casto. But as soon as I say that, here comes Hurlow fighting back on the inside line. And you see Eberhardt right up against the wall, but he has nowhere to go because Casto pulls up in front of him to block him.
Yeah, that's how quickly the action changes. And of course, that may be a statement from just ever so slightly from Casto, wondering what the heck are you doing, because I think Daniel Eberhardt was on this back bumper, but look at that run he got mid-corner on the number 87 on the high side. I thought he got loose out of the high side for a second. Now he's going to get alongside Chris Hurlow finally for that 4th place position. And now looks like the 67 gets a little bit of a tap from the number 87 of Chris Hurlow. Casto will now fall back to 5th. And there goes the number 87 on the high side as Bowie makes his way on the inside for 6th.
Brandon Bowie looking for a top 5 here. He's going to throw it in on the inside of the 67 of Casto. Going to make it work for now. Slides right up. A great slide job from Brandon Bowie. Contact on exit almost. They keep it going straight. But what a couple of power moves out of both Eberhardt and Bowie right there, as now Hurlow is going to come alongside of the 67, throw himself a big move into turns 1 and 2. Not going to work now here from the 17 of Michael Guerrilla and the 57 of Seth the Merchant.
Well, all that's going on, you have to keep an eye on Daniel Eberhardt because he is charging to the front right now. He moved past Sean Casto and Chris Hurlow just a couple of laps ago to move into the top 5. Now he is right on the back bumper of David Comstock, to the inside of David Comstock, as a matter of fact. That's for 3rd position, and he made that look easy. He got a great run coming off turn 4, and he cleared Comstock before they got to turn 1 to move into that 3rd position. That 90 car is on rails right now, and I believe Andrew Freenars has got to be looking in his rearview mirror and seeing that number 90 machine getting bigger and bigger with every lap that passes. And you got to believe, Gary, that's going to put a little bit of worry in his mind here as this race continues on.
Yeah, the last time around, in fact, actually was about 10th faster. Now 2/10 faster this time by, is a whole 2/10 faster than the first top two. It's going to be Fulking, or at least Eberhardt. He's going to be using the very top side this time around. He's going to be looking for that second place position, but for sixth place is a close battle. Sean Castro was practically on top of the back bumper. Of course, Throttle almost bum drafting him out of the corner, in fact, so it's a really exciting battle here for pretty much what is now sixth place, but don't count Daniel Eberhardt on getting that move for second, because he's just about to do it now. To the inside, he goes for second.
And these guys are starting to get loose. While Gary was talking there, I witnessed a big save out of Sean Castro, but you guys keep mentioning Eberhardt, and he is making Swiss cheese of this field now in the second place. That 90 car is just running through these guys, but he has to start worrying about tires here soon, considering, again, I just watched that big save out of Castro. That's going to start happening to everybody. That feeling he's getting of just being loose on corner exit as the banking falls away, that's going to happen to everyone here soon. And I wouldn't be surprised if they start getting loose on corner entry as well. The landing into the banking guys, that's going to pose an issue for some of these guys when they get down into the corner. If they have too much wheel into the car, it could upset that car on entry, like I said. We might have just had something in the back. I heard a crash, but I think they're going to keep going.
And no caution as of right now, and it is worth noting that Daniel Eberhardt and Brandon Bowie are two drivers that did come to pit road on that last caution. We only had 3 laps on their tires when they had that caution come out, but they elected to come to pit road. They took tires, and in my opinion, you've seen how much those tires have meant to these two drivers, because they have charged their way up through the field. Daniel Eberhardt was 10th, Bowie was 11th when they went back green, and they have climbed to 2nd and 4th respectively, and they continue to march forward. As now here comes Bowie to the outside of Falkingham for that 3rd position, and he will make easy work of it, as actually he stays side by side here as they come off turn 4, but now he's able to clear the one machine to move into that 3rd position. So I believe, even though it was just 3 laps, Gary, those fresher tires made a big difference for these two, because they were able to march up through this field and made it look easy climbing up through the field. But now they have a tall order. They have to run down the 88 machine and try to take the lead away from him.
Yeah, they have to run down the Freenars, and it's going to take a long while, because 2/10 faster that time around was Freenars. So maybe Daniel Falkingham may have finally met his match, but that's something that we'll just have to wait for and find out. Or sorry, Daniel Eberhardt, I should say. So that's just something we're going to have to find out later on in the run. So the Merchant, however, is definitely not resting at this point. He's going to be now charging his way through the field, nearing 100 laps to go. He's going to be working over Dylan Jones for 6th.
Yeah, I've been watching the Merchant come through the field. It looked like Herlo got real loose out of turn 4 a couple laps ago, and Merchant just pulled it left, went right on by the 87, got that position, now in 7th, looking to get by Dylan Jones, but he's got a little ways to make up to it. Then it's going to be David Comstock. It's going to be a couple of hard passes for the Merchant to make, but of course the Merchant's one of those exciting drivers. We'll see what he can do. Meanwhile, a battle for second, Eberhardt and Bowie heating up.
Eberhardt on the outside, Bowie on the bottom, and Bowie is charging. He takes that 2nd position away, and he now sets his sights on Andrew Freenars to try to get that race lead back. Of course, Brandon Bowie started from the pole, but he did not lead the first lap. He has not led a lap yet here tonight, as far as I can tell. It's been all Andrew Freenars to this point, but now he's got Brandon Bowie in his rearview mirror with those fresher tires. He's got a 1.1 second advantage, and we'll have to wait and see if Bowie can run him down and try to take that race lead away. Of course, even though he's got a slight disadvantage on the tires, Freenars, once again, as we talked about a couple of times, he was the quickest car in the All-Star race. So he might still be able to hold on to this thing, even though he's at a slight disadvantage on the tires. And we're starting to get to that point in the run now where the new is definitely wore off for Bowie and Eberhardt. It's not going to be as big of an advantage as it was at the beginning of this run. We're actually seeing that right now, as Bowie's not really cutting into that lead at all. He only gained a couple hundredths of a second that last time by on Freenars, so not really making the headway that he needed to, but he got all of his track position back. I think that's the biggest thing he was trying to accomplish there.
Yeah, something that's definitely going to be helping out Brendan Bowie and his morale. A bit of a morale booster now, so he's going to be making his way, actually, seems to be making a little bit of himself some distance between Bowie and Eberhardt, so definitely not going to disappoint for some entertainment here. I'm saying a huge string of cars here for pretty much for second all the way through, looks to be 8th place, so just drivers that are waiting and biding their time. But Meanwhile, it seems to be right now that still just that half a tenth or a tenth faster is Freenar's at the moment.
Yeah, Freenar's with a big lead here, opening it up to about a second and a quarter just about. Actually now a second and a third. So that 88, I think, is still marching away despite the newer tires that these guys had. And I think really, like Brian mentioned, these tires are about even at this point, considering just how hard Bowie and Eberhart ran those tires. And Dylan Jones got right up to the back end of Eberhart there, and then something happened out of turn 2. He might have got the wall. So now the 11 falls back, but he's still got a pretty big gap to Daniel Falkingham. Falkingham and Comstock, falling way back, and oh, big contact. Comstock goes around. DeMerchant tried to hang on to that car.
And big problems right there coming off of turn 4, as you just mentioned, for David Comstock, Seth DeMerchant. Comstock got loose coming off the corner. Seth DeMerchant had nowhere to go, and they both kind of got turned sideways. Seth DeMerchant down through the grass, and he lost a ton of time. Of course, Comstock lost a ton of time, but I don't believe there's any significant damage to either one of these cars. Other than track position lost and probably a very frustrated couple of drivers, I think both of these drivers are going to be okay. Now, for them, they're going to be looking for a caution. You saw the replay on your screen of that incident between these two drivers, but I'm looking at both these cars and I do not see any significant damage to either one of them. But Seth DeMerchant fell all the way back to the 11th position and Comstock back to 15th, so big problems for both of these drivers here.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate for Comstock, but right now, move for second. Daniel Eberhart is not... Sorry, Dylan Jones actually has caught his way up to Daniel Eberhart for third place. He got to the back bumper in the middle of turns 3 and 4. Couldn't really get anything down last time around. Not even the 10 faster. I'm seeing probably about 6 1/1000ths of a second faster was Dylan Jones. This time around now, he makes his way to the inside for third place. Almost into the outside wall was Daniel Eberhart off of turn number 2. That could be a small sign that the tires are starting to wear down, and Daniel Eberhart will now just let Dylan Jones by.
And until then, I was going to say, it's almost like that old saying, you can catch a guy, but it's a different sort of pass. Some big save there from Dylan Jones. That was a really good catch, actually, from Dylan Jones and Daniel Eberhart. Good job, good car control there. But yeah, I mean, it's one thing to catch somebody, it's another to pass them. And I was noticing that with Dylan Jones. He could get right up to the back end of Eberhart, and before he let him go, he just had to keep falling back because something happened. So that's going to be something to watch here, as you can probably make time on somebody, catch them, but to put your car in a line in order to pass them, that's going to be really, really difficult, considering, like we mentioned earlier, how much room you run out of coming off these corners, Brian.
Absolutely, and it's just one of those things you have to be very, very careful the longer the run gets, because as we've seen, these guys are getting very loose on corner exit, and it creates a lot of problems for these guys. And once you get those tires heated up and you get them upset, it's hard to get that car handling good again for the rest of the run. You almost have to back off for a couple of laps and run a little bit slower than you know you can run to try to let the tires cool back down and get a little bit of grip back into them. And only then can you really get into it. As Bowie, he got sideways coming off of turn 4. He gave up a tremendous amount of time, and now that's going to open the door for Dylan Jones to try to take that second position away. He's on the bottom, and he will clear Bowie for second, but Bowie's going to try to fight back on the outside line. Can he get to him? He will stay side by side now as they come off turn 2. Bowie tries to fight back. He's trying to make up for the mistake he just made off turn 4, and he battles hard with Dylan Jones down in 3 and 4.
And the longer these two stay side by side, the more it could give an advantage to Eberhart, who's now starting to slowly catch back up. I think both of them had a little bit of a wiggle off of turn number 4, so that causes Dylan Jones to fall back once again in behind Brendan Bowie for third place. And throughout all of this, actually, I believe the gap now for the lead is essentially 2.5 seconds. So Greenarts has been pretty much running away with this lead, while these two are now at the moment they're single file, but I'm pretty sure that Dylan Jones, when he finds the chance, he will get around Brendan Bowie.
Yeah, Dylan Jones again. He can get to somebody. It seems like he's having a hard time passing them. Eberhart, another great save out of 4. This time, Jones looking to the inside into turn 1. He's got to try and slide job the 43. He's going to get the advantage there through turns 1 and 2, and I think Bowie's kind of given up at this point, maybe saving his tires, considering how loose he's been along with Jones and Eberhart. I think that's a good move from Bowie there. Sit behind the 11, see what he's doing differently to keep that car underneath him. Great move there from Bowie, even though he gives up second place.
Well, and Bowie's in a completely different race right now. Yes, he wants to go up here and he wants to run as good as he can. He wants to try to win this race, but ultimately, he has 3 drivers that he has to outrun here tonight, and he's doing it right now. He's the highest running out of any of our championship contenders coming into this thing here tonight. Seth DeMerchant, Michael Guerrilla, and Spencer Preet are all not really running that great right now. As a matter of fact, Michael Guerrilla is in 6th. That's the highest running other driver other than Brandon Bowie. You have to look all the way back to the 23rd position to find Spencer Preet. And I was going to touch on that a couple of laps ago. He restarted inside the top 5 on that last restart, and he has just not been able to get that car driving the way he wanted to. You almost have to wonder if that damage that Andrew was talking about earlier on might have played a bit of a bigger problem for that car than we initially thought, because since the restart he has dropped drastically, and he continues to drop as he just fell back to 24th.
Yeah, for Spencer Preet, he's been running into a lot of bad luck for this race, unfortunately. So, not really the best race, but on the bright side for him, at least he is managing to continue to run in this race while he can, and just pick up whatever he can, actually, pretty much when this race is over, maybe hope for a couple positions or two. And right now, Brendan Bowie is still doing a great job at the moment for handling it, or at least Dylan Jones is doing a great job by goes and keep looking at the run people. Brendan Bowie doing a great job, doing a great job holding up Daniel Eberhardt, but Eberhardt still just not giving up as best as possible. He tries the high side, but that ultimately loses him a little momentum going into the corner, out of the corner. That's a big advantage.
And I think another side to this story is Spencer Preet could have just had a bad handle on that race car. I don't think he pitted on that previous caution. As long as he's on the lead lap, if you fall all the way back there to 24th, you get a caution, get back into it. That's not a bad deal, honestly. I mean, he qualified 24th. So to fall back there for right now, hang on to the car, keep it in one piece, that's important, especially if we get a big incident up here with, say, Eberhardt or Bowie that takes these guys out of the chance. And, I mean, quite realistically, Brandon Bowie, he's kind of, I guess, playing with fire a little bit. If something big happens, maybe passing a lapped car or just on one of these restarts, he could be in it, and it really could end his night and end his season 1. So, really, anything can happen to this 43 car. Not totally a bad idea for Preet to sit back if that car isn't handling just right.
Well, and like you said, Bowie is kind of playing with fire right now. He's wanting to be aggressive. He wants to stay up here and try to battle with these guys, but at the same time, he has to be very careful not to put himself in a precarious situation. And we've seen him get very sideways here. We have a slider through the infield on the front stretch. Drew Adamson in the 82 goes for a ride. He went through the grass and did a little bit of a lawn care for the guys here at Charlotte. Keeps it pointed in the right direction, keeps it down on the apron and out of the way, and will stay green here at Charlotte. But a scary moment. And speaking of Brandon Bowie, that was right in front of Brandon Bowie when it happened. And had Drew Adamson brought that car back across the track, that could have been disastrous for Bowie. So it's one of those things you have to be very mindful of everything going on around you. You can't make any mistakes, and you have to rely on the people around you not making mistakes either, because right there, that would have been something that really would have been out of Bowie's control, but it could have potentially taken him out of this championship hunt.
Yeah, coming into this race, Bowie, again, still first in points, so great for him to still continue to run where he is right now. He doesn't really essentially have to worry about Freenars and his lead that he has, but for Seth DeMerchant, he's second in points, and I believe, no, scratch that, actually, Michael Guerilla now right behind him in 5th is actually the closest one. Guerilla came in 3rd in points after this race, so this could be a little bit sketchy, if you will, or at least a little bit worrying for Brandon Bowie at the moment.
And while Guerilla makes up some ground on Bowie, one thing to keep in mind is Guerilla comes into this race 12 points back. I'm not totally sure on the point structure, but that's going to be hard to overcome no matter the point structure. So Guerilla really has to go up there, not only pass Bowie and make a statement, but also beat him by a few positions, if not just go ahead and win this race. And that's going to be tough to do when you have the 88 up there leading like he is. Now, you go back to Seth DeMerchant, he's the closest by points coming into tonight to Brandon Bowie. He's got to get a handle on that race car and actually find what it takes to get up to Brandon Bowie and challenge him and make his own statement. I think if he can do that, if he can just get by Brandon Bowie, that would really shift momentum into his favor on trying to come from behind just 3 points back coming into tonight.
Well, and that's where you talk about the idea of potentially having some issues. You get a late race restart in this thing, and you get everybody being very aggressive. Brandon Bowie is going to be in a precarious situation, and it could play into the favor of these guys around him, because he's going to want to be on defense a little bit and try to be very careful, where I believe everybody that is chasing him, they're going to be on offense. They're going to go as hard as they can and be as aggressive as they can to try to get after it. as we see a pretty decent battle going on right now around the Chris Hurlow machine, number 87. And he's got Seth the Merchant, one of those championship contenders, trying to find a way to get by him. That would be for the 6th position. If the Merchant can get there, that would put him a little bit closer to Brandon Bowie. And how about Carl Shedd? He's right back there as well. These three having a pretty nice battle at this point.
And Daniel Folkingham has went to pit road last time around, so lap 68 for Daniel Folkingham. That will put him on most likely fresher tires, and I wouldn't doubt him as well. But Seth the Merchant now still looking at the back bumper of Chris Hurlow in that 87. So the Merchant using the low lane now, and Carl Shedd following suit, left side tires on that white line ever so slightly, and have to be careful and not use that too much. And the Merchant looks to the inside, couldn't find the momentum off of turn number 4 as of then, so he's still going to continue using that low line as the 87 of Hurlow goes way high, and that gives the inside lane almost to Seth the Merchant. They both got loose off turn number 2 ever so slightly, and Seth the Merchant almost had Hurlow down the back straightaway.
And right now, I'm sure Hurlow is very aware of the situation with the championship battle, but at this point, he's saying, I'm going to run my race. Seth, if you want to go by on the bottom side, please do so, but I'm going to stay right here where I feel better. And so that's what he's doing right now. Hurlow just opting to take the high line, not really worry about someone else's race. He's running his own thing. Good moves there. Now the Merchant, unfortunately, that puts him in a box right here where he has to try and work that bottom side that hasn't really been the best so far. So really, Seth the Merchant has to really work with Hurlow here, throw a big move like he just did, going to try and pull a slide job, and it's going to work. Now here comes Folkingham on those new tires. He plays into that, 3 wide out of turn 4. They get it sorted out, though. The Merchant gets that position ultimately, so put him into the top 5 here, Brian.
While that's going on, we had a couple of guys come to pit road for green flag pit stops. Michael Goroya came in a lap ago. He's already down and away, trying to get back out onto the racetrack. And Brandon Bowie, your segment champion points leader coming in tonight, he's on pit road as well. And green flag pit stops are especially tricky because you cannot afford any mistakes. The slightest mistake here could cost you several seconds on the racetrack, which could cost you positions on the racetrack as well. Brandon Bowie is in his pit box, and he looks like he's going to have a very clean stop, and he is down and away. And now you have to wonder if this is going to force the hand of everybody around him to come to pit road as well, because he's now going to be about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds a lap faster than everybody that's remaining out on the racetrack. If he runs out there for just 3 or 4 laps, he's going to gain enough ground where he could take the lead away from Andrew Freenars potentially when they finally have to come back to pit road for them as well. So have to wait and see what these guys do. Looks like Eberhardt's on his way to pit road as well, but he gets sideways and somehow he keeps it pointed in the right direction. Now the question is going to be, did he get that car down to pit road speed before he crossed the commitment line? It's going to be very close.
Well, he came across the line at about 65 miles an hour. Pit speed limit is 50 miles an hour. It took him a little while to slow down, and he overshoots his pit box in the process. That would cost him even more time if he did get a speeding penalty under pit road when he was braking for it. So essentially, Daniel Eberhardt's run is pretty much gone at this point. And right now, essentially, I think Freenars is just trying to run out the field now and wait, and it looks like Eberhardt has gotten at least a 15-second speeding penalty as he's just sitting in pit road right now, maybe also fixing some damage, but at this rate, Eberhardt's run is pretty much gone.
And we mentioned the difference in tires, new to old. Well, Bowie just caught the Merchant the other side of the racetrack a lap ago, passed him in just a corner, got right by him. So that's going to be important for the Merchant, for example, to come in, get tires now, and get back out there. But he's still running laps. I'm not sure if he's waiting for a yellow or what, but that's kind of dangerous if you're the Merchant in that situation, waiting so long, running a bunch of slower laps. You're going to lose a lot of time that way.
Indeed he is, as you just see this going on, and Eberhardt finally got back out onto the racetrack. Now just waiting to see when Andrew Freenars is going to come to pit road, and it looks like, I thought maybe he was slowing to come to pit road that time by, but he's not. He's going to stay out on the racetrack another lap. Dylan Jones stays out as well. Seth the Merchant has moved into that 3rd position, and at this point, I believe if you're staying out, you're just hoping to catch some of these guys a lap down, because right now there's just 12 cars on the lead lap. And especially if you're a guy like Seth the Merchant, that includes your championship contenders. All 3 of them are a lap down right now and behind you. So if you can catch a caution at this point, you trap them a lap down, you gain that track position, it might put you in a position where you have that opportunity to go after that championship and maybe steal something from Brandon Bowie.
Yeah, I think that's what Freenars is hoping for in the process, because right now he's only essentially 58 to 59 laps on his tires that he's been running. So he's trying to stretch this out as much as possible. And even if he does pit now, I'm pretty sure they have to pit, unless he can make it as well in the process, then he'll probably have to pit at least one more time for maybe right side tires if he does choose so. Right now, I think Freenars is just waiting for the right moment to actually head to pit road. So, nope, here he comes to pit road this time around. He's going to have to be very careful, a little bit loose, but keeps it under 50 miles an hour.
Now the focus turns to Dylan Jones and Seth the Merchant to see when they'll come in. Even Carl Shed back there. But these guys have a little bit longer. They pitted on that last caution that we had, whereas Freenars did not. So that's going to play into this, of course. They're probably running a full fuel run at this point. They're committed to that. They can't just abandon that strategy now. They have to just run it out and see if they can find a way to catch these guys, like you guys were saying, either just behind or a lap down. So the Merchant playing with fire, really, like Bowie was earlier, just being in the front. This is an interesting strategy. I like that they're trying something different. I'm just not so sure it's going to work out considering the speed differential. I mean, we saw how fast these guys were going by. It's just, it's an interesting strategy. It might not work, but we'll see how it goes. Dylan Jones still on the speedway, as well as Seth the Merchant. And really, it's kind of an odd one to me to lose this much time.
Indeed it is. We'll have to wait and see what happens with these drivers. And while all that's going on, we'd like to take an opportunity to thank one of our partners, Joe Real Timing. And of course, coverage of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series is brought to you by Joe Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you spend your time on the sim, behind the wheel, on the pit box, or from the spotter stand, JRT is the go-to software for iRacing, timing, and scoring analytics. Get yourself a basic download for free or get the pro version today at joe-real-timing.com. And they have some really cool features there. And while all that's going on, including part of those features, you can see when your drivers are coming to pit road. And Dylan Jones, our race leader, has come to pit road. So he has finally decided that it is time to get his tires and fuel. And that should hand the lead over temporarily, at least, to Seth the Merchant. But Dylan Jones on pit road, he needs a flawless stop as well. And we're about to see, Gary, just how much of time he gave up staying out here as long as he did.
Yeah, something that we'll have to find out in just a few moments. So he's going to be, at the moment, slowly dropping down the order. Brendan Bowie at the moment is back up to P number 5, and he has Daniel Folkingham right in front of him on 4-lap older tires at this rate. So maybe that 4 laps can make such a big difference for Brendan Bowie that he can get around and get back up to 4th. Dylan Jones already out of pit road at the moment, and he's going to be coming out. And Seth the Merchant now, he's going to be heading into pit road.
Well, he was heading into pit road a half a lap ago, but he completely missed the entry. Just a little bit too much rear brake, maybe. Just totally messed up that entry. Ended up going around the pit lane, avoiding a penalty, of course. Ended up almost losing the car once more to turn 1. We'll see him come in here more than likely. Again, gets sideways, hangs on to it. Can he get down to speed? And he does. That time, that was a great job from Seth the Merchant, but he's going to lose a ton of time. On the flip side of this strategy, we have Daniel Folkingham. He's already worked back into the top 2 now behind Ross Cato. Ross Cato, the last one on the speedway to pit. And Folkingham has a pretty big gap, about a 2-second gap, but older tires back to Brandon Bowie. I think the differential on those laps is about, 5 laps or so. So really, I think Folkingham is in a pretty good position, at least for the next little while, if he can hang on to this car and just keep up with Brandon Bowie behind him.
Indeed he has, and he's about to be making the move for the race lead to take that thing away from Ross Cato. Of course, Cato has still not come to pit road for his scheduled pit stop, but now Daniel Folkingham will move to the race lead. And now that pit stops have cycled through, we're a little past the halfway point of tonight's race, but we are going to go ahead and do our midway race break. And of course, that midway race break is brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, and more. And as we just mentioned, Daniel Folkingham will take the race lead after passing Ross Cato for that position just a moment ago. Ross Cato still currently scored in the 2nd position. Then we have Brandon Bowie trying to win that segment championship. He is currently 3rd, and the closest competitor to him in that championship battle right now is Michael Guerrilla back in 4th. Andrew Freenars has dominated this race up to this point, but he waited a little while to come to pit road, and he's currently being scored in the 5th position. Then we have Sean Casto in 6th. David Comstock is 7th. Harry Tiller is 8th, Nick Silver 9th, and Michael Cozy Jr. is 10th.
And Ross Cato spins out entering pit road, so that's going to reset itself. Dylan Jones up in 11th at the moment, probably going to be moving up at least one position. So Galen Goodman now is, there goes Dylan Jones to 10th. 11th is Galen Goodman. 12th is going to be Spencer Preet. 13th, Braden Whittaker. 14th is going to be Carl Shed. 15th, Tommy Ryan. 9th, 16th.
Wreck down the front straightaway, guys.
Yeah, that was Lionel Kalisto. I was just getting to him, and no, it's actually the 90. That's Daniel Eberhardt.
And we'll get back to that midway race break in just a moment. Daniel Eberhardt around on the front stretch, and it looks like he might have had a little bit of help there. Actually, we had a car coming off of pit road that almost got into him, but coming off of turn 4, Daniel Eberhardt, Lionel Kalisto made contact that sent them both through the grass, and Eberhardt turns sideways and somehow keeps it off the inside wall, I believe. Yeah, look at that. He's able to turn that car back to the right. Incredible job. He never stopped driving that car to keep it off of the inside wall. He easily could have pounded that inside wall and had his night done, but fortunately he's going to be okay and be able to come away with minimal damage after that wreck. But this is going to really change things at this point, because we have a couple of drivers at the front of the field now that have the track position. That includes Daniel Falkingham, and everybody's coming back to pit road for 4 tires and fuel one more time.
And they want to make sure that they can get enough tires and fuel for the end of this run. This is essentially almost where it counts. Brendan Bowie is one of them. So is the number 1 of Daniel Falkingham. He almost overshot his pit box, and like everybody is a-okay in the pit box. Didn't see anybody overshoot. Dylan Jones actually went back into pit road again after pitting pretty much essentially not even a lap ago, so he wants to be making sure that he is a-okay on terms of tires and fuel. Daniel Falkingham first out of pit road. Drag race for second. Looks like it's going to be Brendan Bowie third. Michael Gurley.
And that was almost a crucial moment there for Grellia. If he had beat Bowie out of the pits, that would have pinned Bowie back a row. He would not have had that front row advantage, and he would have really been in a box, literally and figuratively there. So almost a big moment there for Grellia, but now he's going to have to work through Falkingham and Bowie if he wants that position. And essentially, we're talking about Grellia trying to beat Bowie at this point. The Merchant is almost out of this battle, at least for the time being. He missed his pit box, or missed the pit road entirely, and had to go around a lap rather slowly. So it's going to take a while for the Merchant to get back into this thing, if at all. So meanwhile, we're going to have to watch that 43 and 17. Those are the 2 cars we're going to be talking about for this championship battle for the time being.
Yeah, and Michael Guerrilla, he's definitely going to need some help if he's going to get into this championship battle. He came in 12 points behind Brandon Bowie, and is going to need some help in the form of Brandon Bowie having some issues if he's going to get into that battle. But real quickly, I'm going to finish up with the midway race break that we got interrupted with the caution. I believe we were right around the 15th position, so that's where I'm going to pick up. It looks like 16th will be Lionel Kalisto. Scott Walter is 17th. Galen Goodman is 18th. Then we have, actually, the timing and scoring is changing a little bit. Scott Walter is 19th. Galen Goodman is 20th. Then we have Austin Coop in 21st. Chris Hurlow, 22nd. Ross Cato, Kyle Kamer, Daniel Eberhardt, and Andrew Jones. That's your top 26. They're all on the lead lap. The rest of these drivers are at least 2 laps down, and some of them have already exited from the race. Randy Yoakum is 27th. Drew Adamson, 28th. Clarence Bonner is 29th. Then we have Eric Stanford, Dwight Beverly, and Gabe Wood rounding out your 32-car field here tonight. And that's been a look at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. And they have quite a few different promotions going on right now. And of course, they update this sim every 3 months. And we're in week 13 right now. Going to see some significant changes to the sim sometime this week to make the racing a little bit better for all of us here on the sim. It's going to be very exciting to see how things shape up once they get that build put out.
That build is going to be very interesting, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. So going to be many anticipated changes, some that most of which we don't even know about. Lights out on the pace car, so once we get back going green, I'll have 59 laps to go.
And guys, this is an extremely important restart for everybody in that top 4. If they want to beat Freenars, they're going to have to really nail this restart, this top 4. And especially if you're in this championship battle, if you're Bowie or Grellia, you're going to have to really do something on this restart big time if you're Grellia, considering you're coming from row number 2, 3rd position. So it's going to be tough, but this should be an interesting restart, one of the biggest restarts of the night, I think.
Well, and the fact that they have him pinned back in the 5th position, these guys have some track position. We've seen Brandon Bowie was quick enough to stay within reach of Andrew Freenarge, but he hasn't been able to get in front of him. And now for the first time tonight, he's going to have that track position. He's going to have to try to work very hard, as you mentioned, to try to stay in front of him. But lights are off on the pace car. Daniel Falkingham is the control car waiting for the pace car to come down to pit road. He's down and in, and now we just wait for the green flag, and Falkingham gets it. We're back under green here at Charlotte, and Falkingham got a great restart. Freenarge did not back in 5th, but Guerrilla got a great restart. He moves into that 2nd position. He moves ahead of Bowie, and now the battle is on for 4th and 5th. You've got Comstock and Freenarge side by side as they head off turn 2.
Yes, essentially could be a quick battle, but it's not going to because Comstock fights back on that outside in that 42. He's doing an amazing job right now. And, well, there goes Freenar's dive into the inside, a little bit loose, entering the corner. I can understand exiting, but entering is going to be interesting, but he slides up just a little bit, forces Comstock up the track, and that's going to open the door for number 69 of Harry Tiller to enter this top 5 battle.
Meanwhile, the championship battle right now coming down to Guerrilla and Bowie. And Guerrilla, like Brian mentioned, on a very impressive restart just a lap or so ago. That was a big power move there for the 17. Got ahead of Brandon Bowie and now is hanging on to that position, but Brandon Bowie starting to come back. You saw that big gain into 3 and 4. Meanwhile, Freenarge is right on his back bumper down to the inside. It's the 88. Can't get down underneath Bowie just yet, but he is definitely looking into turn number 1.
Freenarge is trying to power his way back to the front. He throws the car down into turn 1, clears Bowie with ease and takes that 3rd position back. And now he sets his sights on Michael Guerrilla and Daniel Falkingham. So Andrew Freenarge is on a mission right now. He restarted back in the 5th position. He lost the race lead due to a little bit of a pit strategy. He stayed out longer than everybody else. He gave up time on the track. It cost him some time. If the caution had not come out, he would have been at a major advantage to these guys. And now he slides in there, makes it side by side with Guerrilla for 2nd. What a move to make that car stick and try to take that 2nd position away.
That was a very, very close call from Freenarge. He dived in there. There's almost no space, and there goes the 17 to protect it almost on pretty much on top of the back bumper. It's going to be Freenarge's turn number 4. Looking to the inside, can't get it done. That's 17 of Guerrilla. He is protecting that position as much as possible. He throws the block entering turn number 1, and he's going to, looks like he's going to let that inside lane open up now. So if he lets that 88 by, then he can hopefully single out that 88 once again, get behind Freenarge as quick as possible and protect for 3rd, and he does. So Bowie now is stuck behind Guerrilla.
A great fight from Guerrilla. Couldn't make it work. He really almost got turned by Freenarge. If Freenarge made contact with him out of 4 that one time, it would not have been pretty. And that's one thing these guys have to consider if they're battling for the championship. These other guys are racing for a win, and they don't mind if they rough up a championship competitor. They want to win at Charlotte. So that was big almost there for Guerrilla. Good job of everybody to get through it. Now Bowie is on his rear spoiler and is not going to go away. Brandon Bowie, I think, has the better car currently, but as the track changes, as we put rubber down and as temperatures wind up, and Dylan Jones spinning right behind these guys, the 11 car spins down into the grass.
And that will bring out the caution here again on lap number 98. Dylan Jones, actually that started in front of them. Sean Casto got in the wall, and Dylan Jones had nowhere to go. He ran right into the back of him and kicked him sideways, spun him down through the grass, and unfortunately brings out the caution. I believe he's got some right front damage. It doesn't look horrible, but it definitely is going to affect the handling on that race car, and unfortunately is going to cost him some time on the racetrack as well. Big wreck right there for the 67 and the 11 machine.
That's quite unfortunate, and I think actually the reason that the 11 got turned around, maybe there was a little bit of contact. Yeah, just ever so slightly. There's contact from Michael Cozy, so that's the 2nd time, unfortunately, that Cozy was involved in an incident. On the bright side, though, it wasn't as big of an impact as it was beforehand.
We have
exactly right, Gary, and sorry to cut you off, but Michael Cozy Jr. had just got back into the top 10. That to happen, that's going to hurt him, but I think that front damage might even be tightening him up, which is going to be big on worn tires.
Well, we have just 50 laps of action left in this race here tonight, but we're going to take a quick opportunity to step aside and do a little bit of business. We'll recap the pit stops when we get back. Stay tuned. This is LSRTV, your home for sim racing. We'll be right back. Welcome back to LSRTV's coverage of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. We have less than 50 laps of racing left here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And as we mentioned, these guys had some pit stops here while we were under commercial break. Looks like not a whole lot changed at the front. Daniel Falkingham is still your race leader. Michael Guerrilla is second. The big shakeup that we did have is that Seth the Merchant and Shane Ewing both elected to take 2 tires, and they will sit third and fourth when this thing gets going here in just a couple of laps. So going to be a little bit of a shakeup there. That puts Andrew Freenars back to the 5th position once again, and Gary, he's going to have his work cut out for him if he's going to get up there to Falkingham to take the lead back.
Yeah, goodness. Yeah, Freenars he didn't get a good start the last time out either, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see if he can get back going this time around. And I'm just doing some quick calculations in terms of points here, so it's going to be quite interesting, though. Hopefully for Freenars, he can get back up to first place once again, because he would definitely like that as a morale booster.
Indeed he would, but we're about to go back green flag here for what could be the final green flag run of the night. We have about 48 laps left in this thing. We'll have to see if these guys can keep it green that long. Daniel Falkingham is the race leader. He's got control. Green flag is back out. Michael Guerrilla to his outside. He tried to get a good restart. He didn't quite get as good of a start as Falkingham did, but he's able to get in line behind him for that second position, and the battle is on right behind him. Shane Ewing and Seth the Merchant on those 2 tires trying to hold up Freenars as they come off turn 2.
Yeah, third two, Shane is going to drift up just ever so slightly. So at the moment right now, essentially there's a rough estimate. Well, never mind. There goes Freenars to the inside. Sideways is Comstock in turns 3 and 4. He's going to just barely save it through turns 3 and 4. 3 wide with Bowie on the bottom. He makes it through all this. Somebody was actually doing a pass in the grass. That was at the number 37, Spencer Preet. Well, somebody mentioned that earlier, and well, Spencer Preet just did that, and he lucked out.
A big shakeup there. Brandon Bowie through to about 7th place now. Going to be a big shakeup. And you're right, that was a great save there by Spencer Preet and David Comstock, everybody involved. Great driving. Meanwhile, Brandon Bowie, I was watching him on that restart. He really made a couple of aggressive moves to the inside of Harry Tiller. He was really working that bottom side, and it just didn't work out. Up ahead, Freenars has worked up into 3rd position again. This saga continues between Guerrilla and Freenars. We saw this last time around. These guys are back at it. Freenars still on the bottom side, working it, and almost got by Guerrilla. That time he'll do the same thing and just throws it off into that corner, but Guerrilla right on his right side, using that side draft and really holding that 88 back.
If you're Andrew Freenars right now, you know you've got the fastest car in the field. You need to be a little bit more patient, in my opinion, than he's being right now. You still have 45 laps in this race, and you're the fastest car. You're fighting for 2nd position. Take your time, keep the car in one piece, keep the tires on the car so that you have something to go up there and challenge Daniel Falkingham with should this thing stay green for a longer period of time. He's been very aggressive here, and that's what you want to see, but at some point you have to kind of reel that back some, and you can see right now as he is trying so hard to get clear of Guerrilla, but Michael just does not want to give that position to him. He remains to his outside as they try to fight down into turn 1. It looks like Freenars might have the advantage if Guerrilla can't fight back, and indeed he can't, so Andrew Freenars finally moves into that 2nd position, and now he can set his sights on Daniel Falkingham to try to get the race lead back and see if he can't get up there and try to do what he couldn't do a couple of weeks ago in the All-Star race. Like I mentioned earlier on, Gary, he was so upset that he didn't win that All-Star race because of how fast he was, and he had made it a mission to come in here tonight and win this race in dominant fashion.
Yeah, Falkingham is on a charge right now, but so is Andrew Freenars, who is also on a charge, and ever so slightly quicker by, well, 2 times. So, so much for ever so slightly. It's more like just a good amount faster. So hopefully for Falkingham, maybe he could be saving his tires while Freenars wastes his away. And at the moment, I did some rough calculations, and don't quote me on this, but apparently where Seth the Merchant is right now in 4th and Brandon Bowie 7th, they are essentially right now, they could be tied for 305 points, essentially, for 1st place in points. So I believe it will go to the person that maybe finishes higher up, but also bonus points could play a factor into this as well. But right now to the inside was Andrew Freenars for 1st place inside of Falkingham.
I would guess the tiebreaker would be wins, but again, I'm new to this series, so I'm not totally right there. And Bowie actually just made a pass on Tiller to get that position and get a point ahead of the Merchant. That's big. Bowie now back in the championship lead. Meanwhile, Freenar's going after that Kobe's eye paint's number 1, and Falkingham is doing a great job of hanging on to that lead for now, but I think his luck will run out right here down into turn number 3. Freenar's to the bottom.
You want to fight Freenar's as long as you can to try to hold on to the race lead, but can you hold him off for 40 laps? That's a very tall order for anybody to do when you have a car as quick as Freenar's is trying to pass you for the race lead. Falkingham is not going to give this thing to him. He's going to take the outside line and try to hold him back as long as he can. He's going to use the outside line now. You can see he's pinching down the 88, trying to keep him from getting the run off the corner. But Freenar's actually got a pretty good run coming off turn 2 that last time by. They stay side by side. It's a dead heat as they head down into 3. And it looks like Freenar's has the advantage. He hooks the white line. Can he slide up and get in front of Falkingham? No, he can't. Falkingham fights back, and they remain side by side for the lead here off turn 4.
At the line that time around, it's going to be is Freenar's, and won by how much? I'd say about 6/1000ths of a second. So that was for the win. That would have been insane and really disappointing Falkingham. But now Falkingham, he does have a little bit of time, and I believe Freenar's actually had a little bit of a wiggle coming off of turn number 2. Nope, he did not actually. So right now that number 1 machine doing an amazing job at the moment. Ford versus Chevy, Freenar's versus Falkingham, and that number 1 car is doing an amazing job at just ever so slightly keeping up with Freenar's.
Brandon Bowie through to the 5th position. There we go. Back into the top 5, and now has a 2-point lead or so over Seth the Merchant. Seth the Merchant trying to hang on with 2 tires. Has done a great job so far, but those 4 tires in that 43 car, I think, are going to overrule Seth the Merchant. It's just basic, I guess, NASCAR science, if you will. Just 4 tires are better than 2, and I think that 43 has a lot more speed regardless of the amount of tires in the car. And here he goes to the bottom side. Brandon Bowie looking for the lane into turn number 1. He's going to have it down into turn number 1. He has the bottom side, the Merchant on the top. He's going to clear him pretty easily.
And you have to applaud Seth the Merchant for making this move, the strategy call to try to put himself in a position where he can even race Bowie for this segment championship. He took 2 tires. He knew it probably wasn't going to pay off in the long run, but he had to get some of that track position back because he was well outside the top 10 prior to that decision to make the 2-tire call. It gave him an opportunity, and now if we were to get a caution here to slow things back down, he can get on 4 fresh tires. He might actually have a chance to challenge Bowie heads up for this championship before it's all said and done. But right now he's just hanging on, and Bowie, as you just mentioned, he moved ahead into that 4th position. That puts him in control of this segment championship as we get down to the last 35 laps of this race. He's just looking for that checkered flag. He knows how close it's getting, but he also knows there's still a lot of racing left to go, and we have that threat of late race cautions to get things going and be a little chaotic, Gary, and we've seen both on the sim and in real life that when you get a couple of late race cautions, it can create a lot of chaos that causes some pretty big wrecks and can take out a lot of contenders when it's all said and done.
Yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen to any one of these drivers in the point that this race is going to be ending up in. So apparently Andrew, yeah, something on the 13 and 32.
Yeah, Dwayne Vincent just made a great pass over Shane Ewing, and just for a bit of a contrast over this championship battle, obviously it's important, but just a change of scenery. These guys are having a great battle just a little ways back, just inside the top 10, and here comes Spencer Preet, who we saw making that big move, that big save through the grass. He is technically in this championship battle just a little ways back. He is working up to Shane Ewing, looking for that, what would be the 8th position, almost contact in 3 and 4. Then David Comstock right behind Preet. So a couple of guys with some trouble early. Preet sideways out of 4. A great job of hanging on to it. But a couple of guys who've had some trouble so far in this race still hanging on to a top 10 position. I'm also liking what I see out of Harry Tiller. He's currently just outside the top 5. He was hanging on to that position from Bowie for a little while, then lost it. And just the 69 is doing a great job so far, hanging on to a pretty good spot after being, well, starting way in the back, 29th.
And what amazes me about Dwayne Vincent is we never really get to talk about him a lot during the race. He always has pretty much the same race. He starts in the middle of the pack. We don't really see him a whole lot, but when it gets down to it, when we get down to the last stretch of the race, he has found his way into the top 10, or he has found his way into the top 5, and he has put together a solid race. He doesn't go out front and lead a lot of laps and dominate these races, but he's always there at the end, and we're seeing it once again. He started back in the 27th position here tonight, and he is battling now with Harry Tiller for that 6th and 7th position, and he's not too far away from Seth the Merchant, which could be a top 5 run for him as well. So a great run once again for Dwayne Vincent to put together a solid night, and now he looks to the inside of Harry Tiller for that 6th position. Can he take it away? That's going to be the big question. He goes all the way to the white line, tries to stick it on the white line for as long as he can, but Tiller is able to fight back and carry some good run, or a good run off of turn 2 right there.
Tiller had an amazing run off of turn 2, so now the question is Harry Tiller just going to hold off that 13 of Vincent, or is he going to go for the top 5? Personally, as a driver, from a driver standpoint, I would go for the top 5, but I wouldn't really try and push it ever so slightly that much. But another factor could be Dwayne Vincent, as he looked to the inside on the quad oval straightaway there. Couldn't really find anything, taking relatively the same line as Tiller was, running just ever so slightly higher, almost or pretty much exactly the Larson lane. So 29 laps to go once we cross the line this time by, and it's just a matter of waiting to see and holding our breath just to wonder if these drivers can either make it on tires if they stretched it out enough, or if they have to pit at least one more time close in the final closing laps.
These guys should be good on fuel to the end. Tires are a different story. Tires are going to go away, and they already have. They're going to go away even more here soon. A feel-good story, though, on the night would have to be Michael Kosey Jr. and Tommy Ryan. These two were in a big wreck earlier on. Kosey Jr. with a lot of front-end damage, Ryan with a lot of rear-end damage to match, and they're currently just outside the top 10. Granted, Nick Silver is splitting them up right now and working the bottom side of Kosey. Contact actually out of 4. They keep it going, but still a pretty good comeback for Kosey and Tommy Ryan, even though Tommy Ryan just got set back to 14th, even 15th. A big slide for Dylan Jones getting by him.
Dylan Jones took that car to the grass when all that happened, and he did that true pass in the grass, went down there past the number 99 of Tommy Ryan, almost past the 97 of Lionel Kalisto too. He was just looking for a place to go that didn't get him caught up in the mess that happened right in front of him, but a great move right there. Now he remains side by side with the 99 Tommy Ryan, and you can see Nick Silver's kind of holding him up right here. Silver got loose coming off of turn 4, and he was not able to get the run off. That held Dylan Jones up, and that's going to keep him from being able to get back by. And Dylan Jones has had a rough night. He had that incident a little while back, and he just has not been able to get back up there. He was running up inside the top 5 prior to that happening, and he has just been mired back in the traffic ever since then.
That's quite unfortunate for Dylan Jones, but it's even better that he's still in this, currently 15th right now, trying to get his way up to at least the top 10 at this rate right now. He could get to about 12th or 14th, so he just made his way back up to past Nick Silver, dive to the inside of Tommy Ryan in that number 99. So the 11er Jones doing a great job all right to the inside of Kalisto, and he will clear Tommy Ryan for the moment. So Tommy Ryan will now, it's essentially just a staggered 2x2 formation just up ahead. Michael Kosey Jr., like you mentioned, also ran into some bad luck. He's already back up in the top 10. Slide job on Shane Ewing, almost making contact, was the number 32. He'll have the crossover to the inside for position 10.
And one more feel-good story making a comeback here is going to be Daniel Eberhardt. He's into 17th, working on Carl Shed for 16th, just ahead of Chris Hurlow. And Eberhardt, of course, went for a spin a little while ago. That same thing could have happened to any of the championship contenders, but thankfully it wasn't to one of the guys in the big battle. Hate to say that Eberhardt, but at least he's making a comeback, looking for a top 15 here soon. And, a big gaggle actually right ahead of these guys. But, I mean, this is just a bunch of good racing right here, just outside the top 10. Some guys trying to make comebacks, some guys trying to make big headlines. And you see Dylan Jones throwing it into the inside again, almost gets into Shane Ewing.
Great racing going on here with a little bit over 20 laps to go, 23 laps to go in this race, and these guys are going after it. How about some 3 wide action as they head off into turn 3? You've got Dylan Jones on the bottom, Shane Ewing in the middle, and Tommy Ryan on the outside line, and they remain 3 wide. This is going to get hairy coming off the corner because it really tightens up, but somehow they manage to keep everybody pointed in the right direction, and Tommy Ryan's going to come out with the advantage as he's able to get by both Shane Ewing and Dylan Jones to hold on to that position. So that is 12th position that he's got, and now he can try to go after Lionel Kalisto, and Dylan Jones is right there as well. But some great racing going on back here with these guys, and that has actually brought Daniel Eberhardt into the mix now, because when they got 3 wide, it really checked everybody up, and now he's up here battling with these guys as well.
Yeah, Eberhardt finally caught up to this battle. Unfortunately for Nick Silver, he's getting shuffled back on the inside, so possibly on older tires, relatively the same amount of laps as they almost make contact. So to the inside goes Eberhardt of Buick, so that will put Eberhardt back into the top 15. I believe a little bit loose off of turn number 2 was Eberhardt, so here comes that number 32 viewing to the inside in the process. Yep, loose off 2 was Eberhardt, so trying to fight both drivers off is going to be Eberhardt. Almost a little bit squirrely. There he is. There's a squirreliness off of turn number 4. In this case, it's pretty normal, but on the inside of Tommy Ryan, it's Dylan Jones at the 11.
And one more feel-good story, the Austin Coupe breaking into the top 20 finally. I think that's about it as far as feel-good stories, guys. Back up to the championship battle, though, nothing has really changed even in the top 5. The Merchant is still that final driver in said top 5. Meanwhile, Harry Tiller has fallen back a little bit, even behind Dwayne Vincent and David Comstock. So Comstock may be looking for a top 5 here relatively soon. We have 20 laps to go now, and nothing's changing.
Nothing at all is changing, and the one thing that has changed, but not really changed that much, is that Andrew Freenarge has continued to gap these guys. He's up to 3.1 seconds as we have a wreck on the backstretch. Tommy Ryan, Carl Shed around on the backstretch, and there's the caution here to change everything. I saw that at the corner of my eye coming off of turn 2. We had Tommy Ryan battling hard with Daniel Eberhardt and Carl Shed, and it looked like Eberhardt got into the back of the 99 machine, turned him around, kicked them both down into the inside wall, and now this changes everything because inside 20 laps to go, we're going to have a caution, and now there's a lot of decisions for these crew chiefs and these drivers to make on this next round of pit stops.
Yeah, everybody's going to everybody will have to make the correct move as best as possible and make sure that you know what you're doing, get into your pit stop smooth and quick. And that number 4, Brayden Whittaker, maybe he was also the cause of the caution, but he spun out actually heading into turns 1 and 2 about that same time, so not sure if he had broken loose to try and get out of the way of these drivers, but that's something that's unfortunate for him. He'll get back on the lead lap. Everybody to pit road. You'll have to be careful here. And I think speeding in pit road was Andrew Freenards. No, it was different. As a different driver, I believe. So nope, that was Michael Guerrilli actually that sped in pit road about 5 miles an hour over.
We'll have to cover that story if it services. I'm not sure if Guerrilli maybe got down to speed by the line, but even if he was a little bit over, he can slow down for a little while and get his average speed down in order to avoid the penalty. We'll see how that plays out. Guerrilli is still, now he exits his pit box. I don't think there was any penalty there, so we'll watch the battle on exit. It's going to be Freenards off first, followed by Guerrilli actually.
Yeah, it's going to be Freenards, then Guerrilli Falkingham will come out in that third position. A great battle between Harry Tiller and Brandon Bowie to come out 4th. I believe Tiller is going to get it. Bowie will fall back to 5th, and Seth DeMerchant will be 6th. And now, guys, this is when Seth DeMerchant has an opportunity. He came into this thing 3 points behind Brandon Bowie. They're on equal tires. He's going to be starting almost right beside him. Actually, he will be starting right beside him when they go back green here. If he can get a good restart, maybe trap Bowie back a couple of positions, we might see Seth DeMerchant be able to try to steal this thing from Brandon Bowie in the closing stages of this race.
At the moment, Brandon Bowie is at 307 points, so that means Seth DeMerchant would most likely be at 303. Going to double check that now just to be sure, but this could be a crucial point, and yep, I was right, so 303 points, so essentially the same point difference of about 4 points, or 5 points rather. 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 4 points. My goodness, I can't do basic math. So, Seth DeMerchant starting, I believe, like Brian mentioned, to the outside of Brandon Bowie. Question is, who's going to get the better line? Who's going to get the better restart on the line? And that just depends on the drivers in front of them as well.
Well, as Freenards has proven time and time again, battling with Guerrilli, that bottom side is best on new tires. You can really hook that white line and be the best out there. What's going to matter here is if the guys behind Bowie and Merchant in row number 4, that's going to be David Comstock, Dwayne Vincent, if they can mess up Bowie at all, that opens up the chance for Seth DeMerchant to try and do something on this short run. However, Bowie starting on the bottom side, it's going to be tough, especially with somebody who we haven't really seen on restarts thus far, Harry Tiller in front of DeMerchant. So really, you know, this is DeMerchant's chance. I'm just not sure if he has a good one.
He has a chance, but one thing I was just looking at, and one thing we haven't really talked about, is these guys do get bonus points for leading a lap. And I do know that Seth DeMerchant led during one of those green flag pit stops, but Brandon Bowie has not led a lap yet in this race to my knowledge. That gives a 1-point advantage to Seth the Merchant. That closes that gap from 3 points down to 2. So if he gets in front of Bowie, he only has to finish 2 positions ahead of him instead of 3, unless Bowie can somehow find a way to lead a lap in these last 20 laps of this race. So that's a bit of a game changer as well. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But the lights are off on the pace car. We have 15 laps of racing left. When we go back, green flag, and it's going to be Andrew Freenarge out in front. It looks like Michael Guerrilla will start to his outside. He's been the closest competitor to Freenarge all night long. He's going to have an opportunity here to make something happen. You got Daniel Falkingham starting in that 3rd position, and then Harry Tiller. Look at the night Harry Tiller is having. Started all the way back in 29th, and he's currently sitting in the 4th position. A great night for him. Brandon Bowie in 5th. Seth the Merchant is 6th. Then we have David Comstock in the 7th position. Dwayne Vincent is 8th. Spencer Preet is 9th, and Dylan Jones rounds out the top 10. When we go back, green flag right here, we're going to have 15 laps of action. I can't wait to see what happens. Waiting on that pace car to come to pit road one more time. Andrew Freenarge has the control here once we get back going, and he is going to jump this thing as quickly as he can. Down and away, green flag back out, and he gets about a 3-car length advantage over the guys right there back behind him. Michael Guerrilla and Daniel Falkingham battling hard for 2nd and 3rd as they head to 1.
Side by side are the 1 and 17. Brandon Bowie's trapped in a way, and Harry Tiller to the outside of Seth the Merchant. Both of their lines didn't really get going. Expected Brandon Bowie to make it through wide. Not going to happen. Seth the Merchant going to back off just a little bit. Not really chance it as of yet. So right now, Guerrilla up to 2nd place. Great job for him. He came in 12 points out of this race, and on the back bumper of Harry Tiller or Seth the Merchant down the quad oval straightaway.
This is bad news for the Merchant as he gets into Tiller, shoves him into the fence almost. So the Merchant making quick work of Tiller. I mean, he just needs to go at this point. I can't really knock that move at all. He has to make something happen. The Merchant to the bottom side into turns 3 and 4. Can't make it happen. Has to back out before running into the side of the 43. Good move there as well. So really, the Merchant's chance went out the window when the 4th row didn't go. Comstock, great save out of 4. Back to the Merchant. He has to make something happen. I'm just not sure if he can.
This is the most exciting battle going on right now. Seth the Merchant, Brandon Bowie. These guys are racing for $150 to the segment champion. They will win. And Brandon Bowie right now has that control. He's in front of everybody. All he's got to do is just hang on, stay in front of the Merchant, stay in front of Preet, and he has to keep Michael Guerrilla in his sights because at this point, those are the only drivers that can contend for that championship, and he's just got to do it for 11 more laps as he continues to try to hold off Seth the Merchant. But now there's a little bit of a battle shaping up right in front of him. Daniel Falkingham and Michael Guerrilla going after it for 2nd and 3rd. We have a wreck.
Big
off
wreck,
of turn 2
in the wall.
Oh, this takes out 3 drivers, and oh my goodness, 24, Nick Silver involved, barely getting by, and Scott Walter also involved in number 28. And my goodness.
I don't even know where to start.
All I saw is Preet got loose on the bottom side. I think he may have gotten into possibly Dylan Jones. Yeah, Dylan Jones moved low at first, and then everything else starts from there. I think it was Comstock who got in the fence just after that. So that whole gaggle of cars really just turned into one big mess.
Yeah, that actually started in a couple of different places you mentioned, but it looked like Harry Tiller got into the right rear of David Comstock coming off the corner, turned him sideways coming off of turn 2 and hard into the outside wall. And when you have a car lose that much momentum that quickly, there's nowhere for anybody to go. Lionel Kalisto piled in, Shane Ewing. It looked like Michael Cozy Jr., his rough night just got a little bit worse. Nick Silver, Carl Shedd. I mean, just so many drivers that got a piece of this thing. Unfortunate for all of these drivers as well. Wow, just incredible how big of a hit. And somehow, I don't know if we can get an onboard shot of Austin Coop, but he made it through that thing without any damage that I could see. And that would be an incredible onboard view if we can get, because that was wild to see what happened right there. But while all that was going on, we didn't really have any shakeups at the front. None of these drivers elected to come to pit road, but it does keep Brandon Bowie and Seth the Merchant bunched up for one more restart to give Seth the Merchant a chance to go after it.
Yeah, it's going to be quite interesting. And this time around, now the lines are in a way swapped, but now Brandon Bowie and Seth the Merchant, they're on the opposite row. So row 1 is going to be Freenarge and Guerrilla first and second. Row 2 is going to be Falkingham. Bowie will be on the outside, Seth the Merchant inside in 5th, and Dwayne Vincent to the outside in 6th place. So at the moment, roughly, estimating it should be 308 points to Bowie, 305 points to Seth the Merchant at the moment. So essentially, Seth the Merchant will have to finish, I believe, at least first place to at least tie the top three, or at least tie for the points standings. So still going to calculate that out, and we'll get back to everybody on that. But it's going to be a very, very close battle, and we're going to have an amazing shootout here coming to the end.
Yeah, everything has changed up with that big incident taking out a lot of cars. For example, the 97 of Callisto, going through the air. That really changes the top 10 up a lot. If one of these two, be it Bowie or the Merchant, has a big slip up, that opens up the chance for Guerrilla to make something happen if Bowie has a big issue here on this restart. The other possibility here, if they have a big incident on this restart, fall back a little ways, they're now in the hands of guys like Dylan Jones, who's been real aggressive, even Spencer Preet, and a couple of unknowns, such as Galen Gidman and Austin Coop, who just haven't really been in the front thus far. So there's a lot of variables that could come into play here. Even Michael Cosi Jr. just outside the top 10. So a lot of things just changed with that big incident down the back straightaway, guys.
I'll tell you one person that's probably very ready to get out of Charlotte Motor Speedway, and that's David Comstock, because he had a rough night in the All-Star race. I believe he actually got spun around a couple of times in that race, and now he's had a big wreck here tonight as well to take him out of this thing, and I believe he's out of the race for the evening as well. So a couple of really rough weeks here for him at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and he's looking forward to getting out of here and heading to Michigan next week. So just one of those things for him. He's trying to fight to get himself back into the top 16 in points before we get around to the end of the regular season. Still has all summer to get there, but he definitely can't afford to have too many races like this one here tonight if he wants to make that happen. But as we get ready to go back green, the lights have went off on the pace car, and we hope this will be the final restart of the night. Of course, we're getting close to that point of no return, as Evan Pasoko so famously says when he's here on Monday nights. Once we get to 5 laps to go, you cannot go back green, because there's not enough laps for the sim to set us back up to have a restart to go back green. So when we get to that point, if we have a caution, that will be the end of the race to see how this thing shapes up. But as this thing happens, Gary, I believe you got a quick update on the points.
Yeah, so for Seth the Merchant to win, he'll have to finish first place, which gives him 4 points. So that will be 309 points. But if Brendan Bowie finishes at least third place or higher, then it's going to be either a tie or, in this case, a tiebreaker will be needed. So it's going to be a very, very close finish here, and somebody will have to give at some point during this restart.
So it's going to be win or bust for Seth the Merchant if he wants to try to win that $150 and that segment championship. But for Andrew Freenars, it's about getting the win here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Pace car is in, and he is going to do it one more time. We're going to have 7 laps to go when we go back green, and Freenars gets a great restart. He is away, and looks like Guerrilla spun the tires horribly as they have gapped by about 5 car lengths out to Freenars, and the battle is on right behind him as Bowie is trying to get away from the Merchant. He battles hard on the outside of Falkingham to try to move into third as they come off turn 2.
Side by side, we got Bowie on the outside. Just behind him, it's going to be Seth the Merchant trying to run him down, but at this rate, Bowie is in third and just gets a burst of momentum in the middle of the corner ever so slightly, but Falkingham not giving up that third place position. It's a battle for third, and now it's going to be a battle for fifth. Here comes Dwayne Vincent to the inside of the Merchant. Both drivers on the outside.
Dwayne Vincent making a big move here, almost gets into the Merchant there, keeps it off the 57, great save there, that could have been bad, but the Merchant kind of just got screwed up on that restart. He couldn't really go anywhere. He was behind Falkingham, who had a terrible restart behind Freenars. So now the Merchant trying to work with Bowie here, and now Bowie's going to get the go-ahead on the inside of Falkingham. So everything on this restart has gone wrong so far for Seth the Merchant. 5 laps to go. I'm not sure there's any hope for him left.
Brandon Bowie is doing everything he can to try to put a gap between him and Seth the Merchant to try to hold on to win this segment championship. He's moved up into third. Seth the Merchant is riding back in the 5th position. He can do nothing from right there but watch that 43 machine and watch that $150 slowly slip out of his fingers. But for Andrew Freenars, he is out in front. He's got a commanding 4/10 of a second lead over Michael Guerrilla, and he's just got to complete 4 more flawless laps. At this point, we will not go back green if we get a caution, so he just wants this thing to come to a close. But now, these guys continue to battle hard. I'm looking back at the back half of this top 10. Dwayne Vincent, Spencer Preet, battling hard for position right there, having a great battle. Dwayne Vincent had an opportunity at the top 5 just a couple of laps ago, but since then has faded, and that is actually going to move him back to the 8th position.
That's quite unfortunate, but Dwayne Vincent doing a great job, especially after starting in 27th place up to 8th place right now. So either way, top 10 finish would be great, essentially 17 plus positions up. So right now about 0.5 of a second gap, half a second at this point for Andrew Freenars with 2 laps to go. Really trying to do whatever he can, and Brendan Bowie essentially could just ride this out here as Comstock actually has to pit road.
2 laps to go, guys, and that's all it's going to take here. 3 miles for Freenars to the win, but behind them, the championship battle going on between Bowie and DeMerchant. And again, DeMerchant just kind of in a box right here. It's tough to get by somebody here at Charlotte, especially once the tires have been broken in. Granted, these tires are still new. I'm just not sure Seth DeMerchant can do anything here behind the number 1 of Falkingham, and he still has to beat Bowie by a few positions. I'm just not sure it's going to happen. Almost slaps the wall there. A bit of a tank slapper out of 4. Bowie still in the championship lead.
White flag in the air for Andrew Freenars. He's got to complete 1.5 miles if he wants to come home for the victory here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. He had the fastest car in the All-Star race 2 weeks ago, but had unfortunate circumstances take him away from a victory. But tonight, as he comes through 3 and 4 for the final time, Andrew Freenars is going to win in dominant fashion. He crosses the line. Checkered flag for Andrew Freenars here at Charlotte, and a big win for him. And Brandon Bowie will be your Segment 1 champion. $150 is going to go to driver number 43, so a big victory for him as well. We're going to see both of these drivers celebrate here in just a moment, but you've got to be happy for Andrew Freenars after the night he had 2 weeks ago to not be able to come away with the victory. Tonight went exactly the way he wanted it to go.
Yeah, Andrew Freenars, after, like you mentioned, bad luck in the All-Star race, has done an amazing job at redemption here tonight, and he will come across to the start-finish line, or past the start-finish line, rather, and probably going to do a Polish victory lap across the front straightaway. Or, nope, scratch that cooldown lap. All right, then. Nope, he's going to turn back around. All right, then.
And the big win for Freenars, but I think the big story of the night, Brandon Bowie hangs on despite the onslaught of moves from Seth DeMerchant through a couple of those runs. Just got a bad restart for the 57, and Seth DeMerchant couldn't do anything with it. Brandon Bowie takes home the championship.
And what a great victory that was for both Andrew Freenars and the segment championship for Brandon Bowie. We're going to come back in just a moment, do our full field rundown. We'll talk to our top 3 finishers, and we'll talk to Brandon Bowie about that big segment championship. But we're going to do one last bit of business before we do that. Stay tuned. This is LSRTV, your home for sim racing. We'll be right back.
Team racing allows multiple iRacing members to team up and race together, just like in real-world endurance series. Teammates can share driving duties, spot for one another, or be a crew chief. Team racing is free, both to join a team and to create one. Each teammate races on his or her own computer from wherever they want to. Your teammates can be anywhere in the world, and changing drivers mid-race is as easy as a click of a button. iRacing features team endurance events ranging from just a couple of hours to 24 hours in length. So, if you fancy taking part in an iRacing endurance race in the future, you can learn more about team racing on the teams page on the member website.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSRTV and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Live Sim Racing L.L.C. and iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations. LSRTV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.
Welcome back to LSR TV's live coverage of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series live at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. What an incredible race we just had here tonight. After 150 laps, Andrew Freenars wins in dominant fashion, and he's going to come home with the victory. But Brandon Bowie is your segment champion. We'll catch up with our race winner and our top three along with Brandon Bowie, who won the segment championship, in just a moment. But before we do that, we're going to do our full field rundown, and tonight's full field rundown is being brought to you by English Auto LLC. And English Auto LLC is a full-service luxury automobile repair center in Odenton, Maryland, conveniently located to serve both the Baltimore and DC markets. English Auto specializes in Jaguar, Land Rover, Mercedes, Volvo, and BMW service. Founded in 2007, English Auto is now in its 11th year of business, and with a staff that has over 60 years of combined experience in the automotive service industry, English Auto has an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. For more information, visit them online at www.englishauto.us and through social media at facebook.com/English Auto and on Twitter at English Auto LLC. And now that we have done that, our full field rundown, as we just mentioned, Andrew Freenars was your race winner here tonight. Michael Guerrilla will come home in the second position after a very hard-fought battle to get to that point. Brandon Bowie comes home third. He also wins the segment championship and that $150 prize. Great night for him. Daniel Falkingham will come home in the fourth position. Then we have Seth the Merchant in fifth. Dylan Jones comes home sixth, followed by Spencer Preet in seventh. Dwayne Vincent, how about that? He comes home in eighth. Chris Hurlow is ninth, and rounding out the top 10, Ross Cato finishes 10th.
Finishing 11th is going to be Galen Gibbon, 17th to 11th. Austin Coop finishes in 12th, 13th. It's going to be Tommy Ryan 14th, Andrew Jones 15th. It's going to be Harry Taylor. Michael Costa Jr. finishes 16th, 17th. Kyle Kammer, 18th goes to Ben Ewig. 19th goes to Brian Whittaker, and 20th is Scott Walter.
And Nick Silver comes home 21st, despite flexing some muscle and then getting into a wreck there. David Comstock comes home 4 laps down in 22nd. 8 laps down, Drew Adamson in 23rd. Then it goes to Sean Casto in 24th. Carl Shedd 25th. Clarence Bonner in 26th. Lionel Kalisto with that wild ride on that one of those last 2 cautions. He finishes in 27th. 28th, Daniel Eberhardt. 29th, Randy Yoakum. 30th goes to Eric Stanford, and finally 31st, Dwight Beverly, and 32nd, Gabe Wood. Now to Gary and Victory Lane.
Yeah, I'm standing here with the race winner of 150 laps, winning in dominant fashion, Andrew Freenars. Well, Andrew, you have done an amazing job here in the 88 machine today, leading, honestly not sure, but definitely putting on dominant fashion, probably hitting the triple digits, no doubt. Got the lead pretty much right off the bat ever since the first lap of the race, and well, you've been doing dominant fashion ever since then. Just got a number 117 laps out of 150. You did an amazing job. How'd that feel today after getting redemption from the All-Star race?
Yeah, all these off weeks, man, after Dover, we had the same dominant car and just we couldn't finish. So waiting so long to, make redemption, and we got it today. I think we had a really, really good car. We've had a good car the past few weeks. We just haven't been able to execute. So to win like this is great. It just kind of all the practice that we did, it just, validates it. Hours and hours and hours of practice. I actually ran 2 of the iRacing Coke 600, so that's at least 800 laps there, and feels really good to pick up the win today.
Yeah, no doubt, especially again, that is dedication right there for pretty much 800 laps total. So that's that no doubt must have helped you on. And pretty much learn what kind of line to run. Speaking of which, as well, which line would you did you prefer running? Which line worked for you best? The was it the middle or was it the inside lane?
I really preferred that bottom right on the white line the whole way around the track. Like I said, in NIS, I saw some people were able to run the high line, but it burned the tires off. So I kind of just dedicated myself to working that bottom, and it was able to save tires, and we were able to pull away late in that run compared to some of the guys that were running the high line.
Well, you have definitely done an amazing job. 117 laps out of 150 led. So before I let you go, who makes it happen for you? Give out the shout outs and the pretty much the shout outs to whoever makes it happen for you out there.
Big shout out to everybody on Aegis, especially Dave Washington. We haven't heard from him in a few weeks, so just shout out to him. Hope he's okay. Hope his family's okay. Really, just to everybody. My dad for watching. Sean, Steve on the box every week. He wasn't on there this week, but he helps out every week. Chris, Dylan, Dave, Ross Cato, Kyle Kammer, Carl Shed, Daniel Everhart, one of my good friends, Daniel. Andy puts the paints on, not this one, but little side note, actually, this paint's 2 for 2 in this league, so I might have to keep it on there. But you guys are broadcasting. All the fans are coming out. Really love watching these races afterwards. And how about that? We won at Charlotte. That's pretty dang cool. And congrats to Bowie on the segment championship there. That's really good for him. He was up front all races. And if we didn't get wrecked out those first 5 races, we'd probably been right there in the points. But congratulations to him. That's really cool.
We are going to go ahead and let you go. Congratulations once again on the win. And of course, if that paint has gotten you 2 for 2, I'd say, like you said, keep it on. That should definitely help you out. Hopefully, we'll see you back up here in first place in the next few weeks.
Thanks so much.
So that was Andrew Friednar's race winner of 117 laps. Going to head it down to Andrew Carnelli with Michael, your second place finisher here today.
And down here finishing second, actually the highest championship contending driver, Michael Guerrilla. You gave it everything you had. You come home second place, the highest championship contending driver, and it's still just not enough. He came in 12 points shy, and you get $50 out of it still. Third place finish overall in this segment, second place in this race. How can you sum it up?
Well, we definitely didn't start off the night the way I wanted to with the poor qualifying. I couldn't get it figured out in practice, and that kind of resulted where I started. But from there on, I knew I was going to be better in the race, and I just kind of bided my time up towards the front, try to save as much tire as I can. The one advantage I know I had on most people up front was on the exit of 4. People were starting to push up on the exit, get a little bit loose. But I felt like I was able to hold onto my tires a little bit better than they were, doing about 3/4 throttle and trying to keep it straight on the exit. So I was able to hold on to that. Took 2 tires about halfway through the race. They got me in track position, and kind of after that, I just kind of stayed around the top 10, kind of about that 3rd, 4th, 5th place. And then that caution came out late, and it kind of set me up to where I was able to stay in the top 3 for the rest of the race and just kind of end up finishing second.
Yeah, we noticed you're a decent car in the long run, whereas a lot of guys would just burn up their tires early. It really worked out for you, held you in a good position overall in the field, and I think that's what led to you finishing second place overall, despite a 19th place starting spot. When it comes to battling back from 19th place, especially when you have the possibility for a championship on your mind, what's your game plan coming into a race like this?
Well, I've been thinking about the championship ever since this week started. All day I've been thinking about it, just trying to make sure I knew what I needed to do. And of course, when I qualified where I did, I just kind of set myself up to where I had to think that I just had to take my time for the most part. It was just a lot of just sitting back and waiting, knowing I had a lot of laps to go. And then when it came crunch time, I had to make my move. I saw there in the closing laps, I saw Bowie and the Merchant were trying to make some moves there, get as many points as they can. I know Seth was only 3 points behind Bowie before the race started, so they were battling for pretty much the entire race. They were glued together for top 5 easy, but they kind of separated there. But yeah, once I just kind of got my way through the field, I just kind of sat back, relaxed, and tried to hold on to my spot. So yeah.
Now, on that last restart, Michael, you of course had Brandon Bowie right behind you, and you had to do everything you could on that last restart. There wasn't much of a chance given that Bowie was right there, but watching Freenars get that whole shot on that restart, what immediately came into your mind trying to somehow still win this championship?
It was just basically to maintain at that point. I knew when Freenar's got the jump, I knew I was done. He's had his second gear or something extra compared to everyone else ever since Bristol, I feel like, because he's been dominating all these races. So I don't know, but yeah, I just knew that I had to hold on the second, and I almost didn't help myself there because I had a little bit of wheel spin there on the restart, and I knew Bowie was on my bumper as we crossed the finish line. So I just tried to go up top, block him, and then kind of send it off into one, get ahead of Falkingham on the inside, and just make sure I had a good run off the corners, hold on to second place, and just kind of cruise away for a little bit. And then I kind of let myself flash the last 3 laps, so I knew I had second sealed up for the most part. So yeah.
Well, Michael did a great job of hanging in there, finishing second place tonight despite starting in the back. You're $50, Richard, now finishing third in the championship. Who do you have to thank for that big run?
Well, first off, I want to thank everyone at RSR and LSR for putting it on, especially with English Auto, the sponsor of the series. I want to thank everyone at Dead Zone as well, as being a team member there. John Dragonetti and Gonzo Designs for my paints every week. Other than that, yeah, just having a great time. Happy to have the $50. Looking forward to Michigan next week.
Sounds great, man. Thanks for your time. We'll catch up with you next week.
Yep, thanks, guys.
And now we go down to Brian Macklin with our segment champion, Brandon Bowie.
Indeed, we are. Typically, we talk to the third place runner at the very end, and we're talking to the third place runner at the very end. But Brandon, you're more than that tonight. You're the segment champion. You're $150 richer. How does it feel?
Oh man, it feels awesome. Anytime where there's money on the line, it feels great. I'm kind of lost for words. I really don't know what to say. But to race for money, put money on the line, and the race is clean as we did today against the other competitors, which also did a great job. It was pretty cool to do that.
Obviously, all season long, you put yourself in the right positions. That's why you were able to win this segment championship tonight. But in this race tonight, it had to have been very stressful for you because throughout the course of the night, you had to race around guys that weren't racing for that segment championship like you were, that were just out there trying to go after the win. How hard was it for you to balance how hard you wanted to race those guys versus just trying to focus on winning that segment championship tonight?
It wasn't as bad as what I originally thought. I guess my main focus was to just stay clean and, qualify up front, which I did. I qualified on pole, but I knew that Andrew was on another level. So the goal was just to ride it out and, get past halfway. And then when it came down to it, I had to really fight to get back just to stay ahead of a couple guys just in case, I hit a wall or something happened. And I got shuffled back. I just wanted to make sure I had that buffer big enough so that way, I can come out on top.
So I guess the $150 question is, what are you going to do with your winnings from tonight's segment championship?
I'm probably going to put it in a savings account and put it aside, and hopefully I can add another $150 in the next segment.
Well, there you go. And that starts next week at Michigan. But before we get to that, just want to give you an opportunity to say thank you to your sponsors and say hi to any friends or family. Who makes it happen for you on the 43 machine, Brandon?
I got to thank the Last Car Loaded boys. We race hard every time we race. We haven't been getting the luck and the finishes that the whole team deserves. But I know it's coming around the corner. All of us should be able to finish in the top 15. We just need some luck on our side. Got to thank Commodore's Garage for always coming on board. They've been with me since the beginning. RacingBiz.com came on. Great to have them on board. It's an awesome website if you need to sell, auction out some cars or any type of racing memorabilia. It's a great website to check out as well. Got to thank my family, my wife, man upstairs, and thank you guys for putting on broadcasting a great show tonight.
Well, thank you for that, Brandon, and congratulations on your segment championship, and good luck in segment 2, and good luck next week at Michigan.
Thanks, Brian.
He finished third here tonight at Charlotte, but the bigger picture, he won the segment 1 championship here in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. A great start to the season for Brandon Bowie. And Gary, you haven't been here for all of the races, but we've had an incredible start to this season. I have to believe segment 2 is going to be just as exciting as segment 1 was.
Yeah, this point standings pretty much came down to about 4 points after this. So it definitely was very interesting. Essentially, only a point difference between that. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see who gets the segment championship next year, because that's where it starts to heat up since it's mid-season. So hopefully, maybe we will see somebody else claim the segment championship, or maybe we could see Brandon Bowie again.
Well, and you've got to believe that, Andrew, you got to believe Brandon Bowie is the favorite for that, considering how fast he was through this first segment. But some of these drivers also have to start thinking about the bigger picture, because, yeah, you want to race for that segment championship, but you also have to look at the end of the season playoffs and how you're going to approach this next segment of races. It really is going to be tricky for some of these guys, especially if you're a guy like David Comstock, who's had a rough stretch. He's outside of the top 16 in points. He needs a good string of races just to get himself back into that position.
And Brian, that's the nice thing about these segments to this season. We get this new build here tomorrow, actually, on iRacing, and that's really going to shake things up. There's a lot of suspension workings that are getting changed going into really tomorrow and so on, at least for this next summer season. So when we come back here next Monday, things are going to be a little bit different, obviously different track, but just the handling of the car will be a little bit different from what we've had. So that's certainly going to shake things up. I think you have to put a target, I guess, on Brandon Bowie's back in terms of, he just won this segment championship. He's now the top dog for a little while, but it's easy to unseat him, especially when we have this new build coming out. So, Brian, it's really just a toss-up at this point. We'll have to wait and see next Monday.
Indeed, we will. And next Monday is when that starts. It's at Michigan. It's going to be a very exciting race. And this segment has quite an interesting twist of tracks. You've got Michigan, then they're going to go to Sonoma out west. So a little bit of a road course racing going on for those guys. Then they got Chicago, Daytona, Kentucky, New Hampshire, Pocono, another road course in Watkins Glen. Then you're going to wrap it up with Darlington, Indianapolis. So this is going to be a very tricky stretch for all of these drivers to decide how they're going to win that segment championship. But what an incredible night we had. And after a wild night of racing, we have crowned Brandon Bowie as our first ever segment champion. And that does conclude our coverage of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series presented by English Auto L.L.C. I need to give a huge thank you to both Gary Weaver and Andrew Cardinale for stepping in and joining me in the booth tonight. Without you guys, I couldn't have done it. Huge thanks must also always go to the man with the plan, Cisco Scaramuza, for all his hard work and dedication down in the production trailer every single night here on LSRTV. And of course, we can't forget the race director, Kyle Barnes. He sits up and watches these races and makes sure everything's going according to plan every Monday night. And for everyone back at LSRTV, DJ Lyon, Evan Pasoko, Laura Lawson, and all the commentators that put in their hard work, I'm Brian Macklin. If you enjoyed the show tonight, be sure to go to our website, www.livesimracing.com, to check out our schedule for more upcoming events. We have a lot of action here on LSR TV this week. We will see everyone live next Monday for more action from the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series presented by English Auto LLC at 9:35 Eastern Time. Good night, everyone.